Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. The Dukes might be dancing, but the Mavs are not.
Yeah, tough one.
It was a tough one. You're not going to win a lot of games in the postseason when you don't get a field goal for the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Even when they took the lead late.
They hadn't scored for a couple minutes, or they hadn't gotten a bucket for a couple minutes at that point. It was 60-58.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was not meant to be.
Seemed like Fiddler hit a wall.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was fatigued. He was carrying a ton of the load, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, that's not a criticism. I think
the last
just ran
2
out of
days.
gas.
You know what I mean? It's I don't love the way that I sound. Most people don't.
I don't either. Not you, me. I don't know. Something weird's going on.
But tough run. Tough run. We also heard. Well, I don't want to get off Omaha too quick.
No, let's. You want to stay on Omaha for a second?
Just for a second.
Yeah. So I actually had some. I was. How do you think Crutchfield's done through a couple of years?
Yeah, I think the verdict's still out.
Okay. Because
especially like if I hear any criticisms, it's probably more the in game.
Fair.
But he's I like him personally.
I don't know him at all. So
he's a super guy.
I've talked to him on the air a couple times, but that's about it.
He's a great guy, but I don't know what kind of job that is. I think it's a good job.
I think so too.
Right.
I actually think it's sort of perfect for where it's at because.
So here's the deal here's the thing that I think he's trying to do. I talked to Coach Crandall. This was a couple of days ago in Lincoln, but I think these first two, he tried to go older and kind of in the portal transfer market because I think he wanted some higher end guys because he figured a lot of his guys were going to get picked off anyway, right? So I think he was going to get while the getting's good. He may kind of have to revamp that, see if he could do it on the fly with maybe a couple younger guys, high school recruits, and develop that way for a couple for a little bit of a stopgap. But I get the philosophy though, because I do think early on it was, these bigger schools are going to take my guys anyway, right? Like I think they kind of felt like that going in and recruiting because that's what was happening with that level in the Summit.
Sure.
And you'll hear all sorts of stories, right? Fiddler and William Kyle and all these guys, like where are they going next? And some guys are actually happy where they're at, but don't think the coaches aren't privy to it because they seem to have about it, right? I mean, everybody's looking for a connect, right?
Yeah, and so I don't know what's going on with our voices today. Anyway, I think Crutchfield may have made a little bit of a misstep in how he's chosen to, at least in. Oh, I can't hear myself at all now.
That's yours, right?
Okay, so we switched today. All right,
that's what it is.
Okay,
is this me?
I have no idea.
No, that's me.
This is terrific.
Go ahead.
So I think he may have made a little bit of a misstep in how he's chosen to build this program, at least early on. Because the reason I think this is sort of a perfect Summit League job is because Omaha pretty consistently puts out high school players that can play at that level.
Yeah.
Omaha and Nebraska specifically. And he's kind of shunned is probably too strong, but turned away from that methodology. There's a ton of guys every single year that can play at this level.
Oh, yeah.
In Omaha alone, but especially Omaha, Lincoln, the rest of Nebraska. You get guys that can play at this level every year.
No, I'm with you.
And that is really frustrating.
I kind of do see a prototype, though, that he's looking for. I think he's looking for bigger, longer guards.
I get that.
But I'm not sure. Yeah, I get it, right? But that's not. That might just be a preference.
And how sustainable is bigger, longer, more athletic at the Summit League level?
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right. That's not something typically you see successful at the low major level. Not long term. Sometimes you'll find kind of a lightning in a bottle class like Florida Gulf Coast did with Andy Enfield.
Mm-hmm.
You had that one class or a couple years where he legitimately, when they played Georgetown, they looked longer, faster, more athletic than Georgetown, which is a wild thing to say out loud. But anybody who watched that game knows exactly what I'm talking about. That is not sustainable at this level. You're not consistently going to get longer, bigger, more athletic guys than mid-major and high-level programs.
Yeah.
And those guys, if you do get them, are going to get picked off even faster than the other guys because they fill a prototype that the higher major and mid-major schools want to fill. Right?
It seems like, especially just coming off the state tournament and seeing a lot of these guys for so long, there are some. I hate to say there's some fiddlers out there because Frankie's work ethic and I think getting his body type like over time,
and he's tall for
but
a shooter.
But let me go back to when Frankie came out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Not what he is now.
Sure.
Because he's fantastic. I mean, he was great in high school, but some of that was his temperament too, right? Like he's just competitive, right?
Frankie coming out of high school wasn't as unique as Frankie is now.
Right. So are there? Yeah, I'll take that. So
is that fair?
Yeah. So there are some
100%
Frankie Fiddler types,
first team all conference types
in high school right now in the state.
Like if you're Coach Crutchfield, and again, I don't know him, I don't have anything against him. This is just me observing from the outside as somebody who coached low-level college basketball for a while. How on earth, if you're Coach Crutchfield, do you let Jaden Jackson get out of state and play in your league?
Yeah.
Like that can't happen.
So
if he goes play somewhere else, he goes play Missouri Valley, he goes somewhere else, whatever. Like it happens. I don't care if they're the top dog in your league and have been for a while. There is no freaking way you can let that dude out of your town.
But I get it.
And go play in your league.
It's just interesting with a guy like with Jaden is, and I've heard that obviously, we've traveled together for 5 years, right? What I've always heard about Jaden, especially from collegiate guys, is this is hilarious. If he was just an inch taller. That's
the dumbest
thing.
The
last 2 years, I just started to chuckle at myself. I'm like, and then what? And then what?
Would his game be any different?
Yeah,
would he be any better at basketball?
Then what? He's still a really good offensive rebounder. He's still got long arms. He still has the quickest release in the state.
And a mentality to be that guy in crunch time, as we saw in the state championship.
He's extremely coachable.
Yeah. Like, what else do you want? I will trade the 1 inch of height for the extremely coachable.
And he can get his shot off.
Yeah.
I mean, we played against the elite of the elite in summer, and he was just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it, they played against him. And he
held his own.
What they lose 8 games, maybe something weird like that. A year ago, I think it was less. But I mean, he's just one. Now it turns out he's arguably the best player in the class.
Oh, but Sauter's been saying he's the best player in the class all year.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect, but I
who do you like better?
No, I don't.
Or who are you putting?
I don't think because he said they're the best. He and I almost never agreed on that, right? Fair. Like, I'll take my talent. I wouldn't I wouldn't defer.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. But I mean,
but if you're saying it and he's saying it, I'm going to go ahead and assume it's true. If you're saying he might be, Sauter saying he is, I'm going to go ahead and say
I'd have to really, because you got to think like projection and at the collegiate level too. There's a couple of guys
like Frager.
Yeah, Frager's one.
Yeah.
The thing I don't know about Frager is, and I'm not going to just pick apart. He takes such tough shots.
Yeah.
So, like, if he plays with other guys that can help create,
is he still going to try
and help him get to spots on his floor? Because I could have said the same thing about Frankie 2 years ago too.
Yeah,
and he talked about it with us, right? Like his ability to get to his spots on the floor, and he was crediting the staff, and he's much more efficient than he was. So that can happen, but heck of a talent.
Yeah, and so I just
bouncy too.
I have a really hard time looking at this roster and seeing just Frankie Fiddler from Omaha.
I kind of like I like White's game a little bit, JJ White.
Okay, and you've got youngers from Prep who doesn't play much or hasn't played much.
So Junkers was playing. I don't know what happened with him in the rotation later in the season.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
You know, I don't know enough.
And that's totally fine. I look at this team. I look at a lot of guys that I don't look at and see that as, hey, that guy's significantly better than guys I'm seeing in the state.
So I wonder if like this is probably the time. Okay, year 3, you can maybe it's not necessarily a reset, but you look at what's going on philosophically,
kind of like Hoiberg did
recruiting.
Because I wonder,
what's sustainable, what fits our eye. You know, what do we think that we can?
This is a weird comparison, but to a different degree, I think you can, if you're Omaha and you can consistently recruit Omaha kids and be successful with them.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
I think you can sort of you want to be able to put out a goal that high school, like middle school and high school kids in the city can get to, right? Because I know that people in Omaha are like, oh, I could go play for Creighton, or people in Omaha or Nebraska can be, oh, I want to go play for Hoiberg. But not everybody's at that level, right? That's not a ton of guys from Nebraska consistently get to the high major level. But it's sort of like Nebraska in the 90s where a kid like maybe wasn't getting a high D1 scholarship. They'd be like, oh, I can go walk on in Nebraska. I can be that guy. That's sort of what Omaha could fill in the basketball community of, okay, maybe I'm not Hunter Salas. Maybe I'm not Chucky Hepburn. Maybe I'm not even Jason Green.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because one of the things I think that they would have to guard against is, do I have a year and a half to develop a guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Based on what the conference is putting out.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think, man, with the Griezels and the Easleys and the Will Kyles, the thirds and guys.
A lot of guys playing in your conference coming from your city and state.
Yeah. So that's
like, how does that sit okay with you?
But I get it. I understand.
Not with you. I mean, like in general.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is patience wise and expectation level wise, it's not sometimes just plug and play. Like sometimes those coaches are in a different spot where they're afforded the luxury of a couple of years to kind of get it set how I want it. And maybe this is where Omaha is right now.
But what gets you in trouble faster? Taking a chance on a local kid that you need to develop a little bit, or watching a bunch of local kids beat you in your own conference on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Because that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And listen, I haven't coached at the D1 level. I don't know Coach Crutchfield.
But I think we can talk, and it's not picking. There's two things going on here. Like offering solutions or maybe what's going on is not the same as telling somebody how to coach. So
sure.
Like,
and maybe Coach Crutchfield is less confident in his developmental abilities than some of these other coaches are. I don't know. Maybe that's not.
Maybe he wanted to win right away. I heard a guy. It's not like it's uncommon.
It's different skill sets.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
That early on said, "Hey, if I had it to do over again, I would do it differently." I sold out and went big because I'm competitive. I didn't want to take time to develop, so I took some chances on some guys.
Can I say who this is?
I normally wouldn't have taken chances on.
Because I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
Who's that?
That's Coach Frost.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So it happens.
100%. Because people feel that, this is
winning is,
Crutch's first head coaching job.
And for all intents and purposes, he's got a fantastic AD. He himself is a great guy. I'm sure they could sit down and talk about what the vision is.
Yeah, and reset, if he thinks he needs to, right? And listen, I understand, especially when it's your first shot, right? You want to do it right, and you want to get it right away. A lot of times that works against actually getting it right. That's where, we had the same problem with Hoiberg, right? Hoiberg was using this formula that worked at Iowa State, and he tries to win right away, and it's a disaster here, right?
It's important. Most of those guys think it's easy.
It's not easy, right? Like, I get that. But at some point, you can't keep throwing good money after bad. And listen, they've gotten dramatically better in terms of the win column over the past 2 years from where they were the last 2 years under Coach Hansen, who I love, by the way. Love Coach Hansen. But you also have to, I'm not trying to nitpick here, but look at the schedule a little bit, okay? Because at least 3 of these wins of their 14 regular season wins are against NAI teams. Those are, those are teams that I used to play. And used not just as a player, which I was terrible, but as a coach. Like we used to play Bellevue and York and Mid-America Christian.
Yeah, but
Dome.
remember, DH they tried it the other way where they were playing the pay games to get the paycheck, and those schedules were. Brutal.
I'm not saying they should go out and play the top 25 teams in the country. I'm just saying when you're looking at 15 and 18 as the season ends, like
you're getting inside the numbers.
I'm just making sure we don't say, oh man, they were almost 500, and like some of those aren't D1 games, okay, and that does matter. It does, right? Because those are the pay games for the NAI schools. I've been in these pay games. We went and played Oral Roberts, like got our head beat in. It's like that's just what you do. You go take a paycheck, you take a road trip, and for these teams, they're right down, Doane and York and Bellevue are right down the road. It's a nice, easy trip. You don't even have to stay at a hotel. You get a fat paycheck, you go home. That pays for the rest of your season. I get it. But I just don't want people to be like, 15 wins, that's a great jump. It's like, well, let's just make sure we understand what those 15 wins were.
Yeah.
Okay. If they played an NAI schedule, they'd probably go like 28-2. Like they do really, really well. It's important to make that distinction here.
Yeah, I think who they want to be from a recruiting standpoint is the key. They got to reset that.
I think so. There's too many kids that can play in this level at this level and in this conference because we see them playing at this conference being successful to just sit there and be like, nah, we're good. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you're going to lose your mind watching South Dakota State beat you with kids from your state or North Dakota or North Dakota State. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow pretty soon.
Yeah, it's a lot of good basketball, especially as of late.
Yeah, listen, Nebraska's gotten so much better as a state in high school basketball. I remember when I was in high school, so like 20 years ago, if you got one D1 kid out of this state, it was a big deal, right? Like,
Kids work at it.
Yeah, you had like a Benny Valentine and a Carl White on the same team. You're like, ooh, 2 D1 guys, same team, let's go.
I don't know if I'd call Benny Valentine a D1. You like that guy.
He played D1. I don't know what to tell you.
Game's changed. No disrespect.
It has changed for sure. But I'm just saying the difference between back then when, you probably couldn't be sustainable winning with Nebraska guys if you're a D1 program. And now is night and day.
Maybe it's exposure too. I'm not sure. Right? It's like, did you know of any Max Murrells
back in the day?
Back in the day, there were a few, right? But then you watch Mac, and I'm going back Miller North, 5 years almost, and it's like, oh man, he's different. Kind of pogo, sticky, left-handed, explosive.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's going to Stanford. He's a smart guy. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I think the way that recruiting, the platform is vastly different too.
Yeah, you get your game in front of more eyeballs now, without a doubt. Whether it's AAU, whether it's Huddle, whatever it is, it's just easier to get your game in front of people now. But that's also why if those people are in your backyard, you cannot take it for granted. You have to go get them. That's something we saw from Coach Rule and staff, right? Doesn't take a single Nebraska kid for granted. If he wants that kid, he's going to give them just as much recruiting attention as he would a kid from Georgia or Florida or Texas.
Yeah, what do you say? I'll go get his ass.
Right? Like he's going to go out to Ainsworth 8 times a year and be like, no, you can go visit Notre Dame you want. We're coming to your house. Mm-hmm. And then we're crashing a wedding with you. Like you can't mess around with this anymore because you are those, like Carter Nelson from Ainsworth 30 years ago probably doesn't get eyes on Georgia. Right? Like
that's fair.
Like that's a tough, because the camps weren't nearly as big of a thing. Obviously you didn't have internet film and all that kind of stuff. Like Nebraska probably gets Carter Ainsworth 30 years ago.
Nelson from Ainsworth.
Carter Nelson from
Carter Ainsworth does sound like a real name.
It's a good name.
It does sound like a real name.
Sounds like a pitcher. Carter Ainsworth is a lefty. He's taking the bump on Friday.
It rolls off the tongue. It's a little easier than like Yomimoto, Yoshitoto.
Yeah, all your guys from the Dodgers.
Stop it.
What?
Stop it.
You guys, you spent a lot of money and did a good job.
Oh, here we go.
I wish the Red Sox would have spent any money at all.
Oh.
Don't worry.
Selfish.
Spent like $4 on Lucas Giolito and immediately had surgery.
It's funny how you always bring him up. Like, what do you think you were going to get out of Giolito in 2024?
Any innings at all.
Oh,
That would have been nice. Listen, I don't know what version of Giolito they were getting. The one that pitched at all would have been nice.
Well, nothing now.
That's what I'm. That's like we just traded Chris Sale for some other guy we're never going to see pitch. That's terrific.
It's interesting when you make the connection of, and it's not even about collegiate levels. It's just about eye for talent. There's such supreme confidence, and kind of how those guys feel like Nebraska football feels like they can develop. That they know what they're looking for. So I think that's the conversation that you got to have at Omaha. Okay.
What are you looking for?
Let's recalibrate what we're looking for, and then let's go get that. Like just.
And if the thing specifically you're looking for isn't here, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think you are making a mistake if you're like, hey, we're going to win with athleticism at the low major level. Like, I'm not saying you're not trying to go get good athletes, right? But those are the guys that other schools, mid majors and high majors, are taking chances on because they project physically to their level. And B, if you do get them and develop them, they're definitely leaving, right? Yeah. You've got a guy like
I do think there was some concern the first couple of years that they had to go big early because guys were getting picked off, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and listen, there's a part of this where if you're Coach Crutch, and this is your first big job in terms of being a head coach and getting your opportunity, like you want to, like you're so impatient, right? Because he's waited a really long time for this opportunity. I get it. I get that. But I think you may be making a mistake by not doing it a way that's sustainable.
God, we've seen this with a lot of the local programs too.
We have.
Baseball's come back full circle.
Yes.
Volleyball's been pretty good. Softball's been sustainable.
It's such human nature to try and just do it right away
and look other
and say, oh, I can get this guy and whatever. Even if you're successful early, it's so hard to sustain.
Maybe it's an awareness issue too. Hey, this is our program. This is what we're about. I know Ed Service kind of recalibrated it for local guys,
and now they're scoring 1 million runs a game.
Well, they were they 15 and 17 last year?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to overdo that. But I will say, like, this isn't DB here for, hey, go local. But what I am saying is I do think when you clearly know who you want to be, it's easier to identify what you want
when
to
you see
get.
one.
And there's a good level being played at a multitude of sports now on a consistent. I mean, look at wrestling. Look at softball. Look at volley. Like the state's doing okay. How many D1 guys are you going to have in football? I mean, a ton.
A ton. We've got more Hurrdat Sports coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Coming up on the show today, we've got Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network at 8:45 to talk NFL free agency. And we've got John Fanta at 9 a.m. He is covering college basketball everywhere. Fox Sports, Field of 68. I believe he was on the Big East Women's Tournament this past weekend as well. He's all over the place. We'll catch up with John on the college basketball scene at 9. But I do want to get into the NFL free agency before we talk to Cynthia because there was a lot going on yesterday.
Yeah, I don't understand.
What part?
Well, there's lots. I'll start with the running back situation.
Absolutely. Let's start with the running back situation. Which one baffles you the most? Is it Tony Pollard for Derrick Henry?
Not so much.
Okay.
I'll start in Green Bay.
Okay, so Jacobs for Green.
Because I love
Aaron
Josh
Jones.
Jacobs.
Yeah.
I just don't get the money committed to let your running back go.
Let Jones walk.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy for Jacobs. No, listen, I'm probably the only dude in this city that has worn my skirt and pom-poms for Jacobs.
Yeah.
Just kind of a strange
You have an affinity for him.
move.
Yeah, I
financially
don't really get it. I don't for the money.
Now, Jones had some health issues. Okay,
Sure.
I get it.
But for the money that it is costing them, how much better is Jacobs than Jones?
Yeah, and again, I don't know his injury situation.
Sure. So
right?
maybe it's
maybe
they
they
just haven't
saw
any
the
confidence.
decline, right?
Yeah.
Because they see him up close.
100%. Yeah.
So that one was interesting. I still have no idea. Like Atlanta committed a lot of money
To Kirk Cousins
to Cousins coming off an Achilles.
at 35 years old,
6.
36 years old, coming off Achilles.
That's a lot of scratch, especially guaranteed.
90 guaranteed,
Especially-
180 overall.
Especially guaranteed. I didn't like. So
Is there any part of you that's like, well, he's not super mobile anyway? How
No.
much is it going to matter?
I just you have to plant and push. I mean,
Yeah.
Marino wasn't mobile,
No, he wasn't. You're right.
but Achilles have come a long way.
They have.
I will say that. So, I mean, this isn't
This
Dan.
isn't-
This isn't mid-'80s Dan coming off his Achilles,
Yeah,
right?
or like what Dominique Wilkins
Yeah,
his
where their career was shot.
yeah, their career was over. We saw Klay Thompson come off of one, was okay. I mean, listen, he's not the same, but he's okay.
So it's like, I don't know. It's what Saquon got his money,
Mhm.
but the running backs weren't slotted. I look at and listen. I'm not saying Eckler is Saquon, but healthy when they're fully functioning. I mean, Eckler's been
There's not a ton of difference,
he's been extremely productive.
and he gets way less at Washington than Barkley gets at
And
Philly.
Washington had all that cap space, and they still do.
Yeah.
I don't really know what Chicago's doing.
With Swift,
It's a lot of money when you have a running back in place.
and how? I mean, what difference does Swift make for the Bears right now?
It didn't seem pressing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it didn't seem pressing. And then what are they going to do at the quarterback spot?
I still don't think they know.
I'm telling you.
The longer this drags out, the more it seems like they're maybe keeping Justin Fields.
Well, if not, he's in big trouble.
Yeah, because the market's dried up now all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Because Atlanta has their guy in Cousins,
Pittsburgh has their guy.
Pittsburgh has their guy in Russell Wilson. Now, theoretically, I don't think they're going to go this direction. New England's still available.
Didn't they just sign Brissett?
That's not their starter. Come on.
Tell that to the Colts.
Well, I think he told it to the Colts.
Why go back and get him?
I mean, my thought is they want a veteran for whoever they draft.
Oh, okay.
Is that fair?
Sure.
I mean, if you want Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whoever, and you're like, hey, we want a veteran, maybe Jacoby Brissett starts the season. You don't have to have your rookie start immediately because you don't have another option. That makes sense.
I just
to
don't
me.
think and I don't think they have enough around him.
No.
But do you know who I
you don't want to throw that guy in the deep end like that.
You know who I actually like what they are doing?
Who?
I kind of like what Minnesota's doing.
So they got Darnold.
So he can be a bridge guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
and listen, I mean, the 49ers were very happy with Darnold last year. They didn't need him.
He can definitely be a bridge guy, especially with their head coach who's pretty good offensively. The other thing is I like what they've done defensively. You know, you get 3 new linebackers. I think again, you get the 2 guys from the Texans. You get Van Ginkel, who's reunited with Flores, who basically he didn't polish a turd, but Flores was unbelievable last year.
Yeah.
Like Minnesota defensively was
they didn't have that many dudes
for kind of a leaky secondary.
Yeah,
was pretty good.
They were pretty solid. Yeah.
So I kind of I can see the plan.
I think
for Minnesota.
I think Minnesota fans look at trading Cousins for Darnold and panic a little bit.
Yeah, but that's not gonna. They're gonna get a guy.
Who do you think they're gonna draft somebody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's kind of your Brissett.
You know, this call me crazy. You know what I would do if I was Minnesota?
What's that?
I would bridge it with Darnold and go get Penix later.
That's kind of the guy I was thinking about for them.
That's what I would do.
So where I'm trying to find where do they pick? I don't have it off the top of my head. I'm looking.
I don't know. 14th, maybe somewhere around there.
11? Does that sound right? 11. They're
okay.
11.
I knew. Yeah. I see. Hey, not bad.
So you could get
not bad.
Man, this dude's crazy. Sorry, somebody's got Bo Nix going 12. Get out of here.
Somebody's gonna take a chance though.
If
Somebody's gonna take a chance.
If Bo Nix goes 12, like I give up. They've got JJ McCarthy going 6. Holy cow.
Whose mock is that?
This is NFL.com. I don't know who the analyst is.
Okay.
I'm looking. Charles Davis, maybe? Yeah, Charles Davis has J.J. McCarthy going 6. And Bo Nix going 12.
I've tried to tell you
People love the
for
long
2
shots.
weeks, you hate J.J. McCarthy. I'm telling you, he's going top 10.
I don't hate J.J. McCarthy.
He's going top 10.
I think top 10 is a reach for J.J. McCarthy.
He's going top 10.
You know where he makes sense to me is back end of first round where he's on a good team.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're a team drafting J.J. McCarthy,
it could be the Vikings.
which that would make more sense to me than I think they've got him going to the
They're
Giants.
11.
Yeah, McCarthy. Well, I mean, we were talking 10-12 yesterday.
See, I don't trust the Giants, even though I am excited to see Burns and Thibodeau.
Yeah, I think they've got an okay roster at some places.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't think so?
You got to figure out quarterback and who you're going to hand the ball off to.
Well, yeah, that's fair enough. I just forgot that Saquon's just piecing out to Philly. How
about the shot across the bows from Tiki Barber?
what was he doing?
It's Tiki being Tiki.
Like
that thing wet.
Unlikable.
People hadn't said his name in long enough. He just needs to.
Unlikable. The same guy that said that they couldn't win without him, and
They win the Super Bowl the very next year.
Eli got 2 more.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
But I mean, it was literally the next
Yeah.
year, right? He retires in 06.
So it's like do your
this-
thing, Eli. Like he's
this-
just a bitter dude.
This may not. Well, yeah. I mean, if I kind of, again, weird analogy, but I kind of think of him as like Mark Jackson when he was coaching the Warriors. Like,
Who got blackballed unnecessarily?
well, okay, I don't care about that, but he's coaching the.
Of course not.
He's coaching the Warriors, right? They've got a nice little team. They got Steph and Clay and whatever. Steve Kerr comes in the next year, immediately wins a championship and wins 67 games in regular season.
Yeah.
Like that kind of feels like the Tiki situation here. Although Mark doesn't seem to feel some kind of way about it, which
people seem to feel some type of way about
Saquon.
Mark Jackson though.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't want to get too far off of that. But so is Bakhtiari just not going to be healthy with Green Bay?
I guess.
See, I just don't know the injury history there, but Green Bay was puzzling yesterday. What happened in Cincinnati with T. Higgins?
Yeah, so they
You
tagged him
at last week, and then yesterday he seeks a trade.
I mean, did they not have any conversations?
I don't know, but Cincinnati better be careful.
Why is that?
Because you can get a false sense of security with a good quarterback.
Yeah. We saw it. I mean, we saw it a little bit last year with the Chiefs, and they figured it out.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of the year was them having trouble at wide receiver because they got a little too comfortable with an elite quarterback. We've seen it with Brady.
And I don't really know what Dallas is doing yet.
I never really know what Dallas is doing.
And you gave up on Biotic already?
I think that, Jerry Jones is not a terribly patient man.
I
mean, except for with his head coaches that he likes to be puppet master for, but that's a different thing.
We'll get to that at 8:45.
I don't know. We got more NFL free agency coming up as well here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're talking a lot of college basketball and NFL free agency this morning. We kind of touched on this just a little bit, but the market for Justin Fields now.
Yeah, it's shrunk.
His two main destinations, Pittsburgh and Atlanta, all of a sudden don't need him. It's unclear what Chicago wants to do still. If you're Chicago, do you just hold on to him even if you want to draft a guy?
I said that from the jump, though.
Like, does that make sense to you to just say?
I would. You know what I do like, though? And maybe it's just the Orlovskis and the Louis Riddicks. And I heard Charles Davis talk about this a little bit. And I think the agreement was, and I don't know. I mean, maybe they were just getting at Tannenbaum because he thinks he knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I am glad to hear folks actually challenge and criticize competency with handling quarterbacks.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's a debacle. And I said yesterday, listen, I'm not here to defend Mac Jones. I'm just saying 3 coordinators in 3 years after a guy had a good rookie year.
He was good in year 1.
And 2 guys that shouldn't have been coaching him. Like that matters. That's quarterback. That's malpractice. Like you should lose your job over that.
And everybody did.
with how you've handled Justin Fields, like maybe Poles knows something that we don't. Obviously Poles knows something that we don't. But how do you not figure out a scheme for your quarterbacks? Like that's coaching.
Well, I mean, and last year they didn't let him run the ball for the first like half of the season.
Well, and I saw it with Trubisky too. All the back and forth. Is he going to be this mobile guy? Is he not? That I mean,
if you don't want your quarterback to run, why do you have Justin Fields?
I just think coaching competency undeniably matters.
Oh, for sure.
It's. I mean, I watched Kansas City's offense change, not mid-season.
Kind of.
I'm talking about from what it was when the season started. So the first third of the season, they wanted to be one way, bought some time in the middle, then kind of elevated as the season went along. And I'm not
that's
saying,
not even to mention
not everybody can have an Andy Reid or that brain trust, but I've seen them do it in Green Bay. Remember when Green Bay at the beginning of last year didn't have reliable receivers that could catch the ball, and everybody was on injured reserve, and by the end of the season, we're talking about how much money Jordan Love's going to make, right? Like that's coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right there.
So there's a reason I can sit here with a straight face and tell you I wanted Justin Fields over Trey Lance in San Francisco.
And I'm not here telling you he's the Bears' future.
No,
but
what we've seen from him from the Bears doesn't mean he has no future.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's your job to figure it out.
Yes.
As a coach.
And they have not done a good job.
So I don't know. I think part of the reasons why we can't figure out quarterbacks is some of it is you got to coach them up.
I keep trying to think of a good place for Justin Fields because I do kind of like him. I would like to see him get a shot with.
Well, you could get him for cheap for a year.
I don't even know. They're talking about they don't even know if they can get a second for him now.
No, listen, you know where he could go.
Where?
He could go to Cleveland.
That would be interesting.
I mean, I'm just like, why not?
Yeah, if you're Cleveland.
Because I think you want to find. And listen, it's not a black thing and all guys scramble, but I'm looking at who's taken snaps for them.
Yeah.
The last couple of years. Maybe Cleveland.
You kind of like guys that have similar skill sets. You don't have to change your offense if a backup comes in.
A ton.
Obviously Justin Fields is not Deshaun Watson.
No, but DTR, like there's
you want to have similar.
There's more case studies than that. Yeah.
Yeah. You saw the same thing with Baltimore. They tend to try and find a guy, and obviously nobody's Lamar Jackson, right? But you try and find a guy with a similar skill set that you can run at least most of the same stuff with, right? Cleveland's interesting. My question with Cleveland is if Deshaun Watson is who I think he is kind of a baby that doesn't necessarily want to play football, do you worry about scaring him off by bringing somebody else in that's sort of high profile?
No, you have those conversations in the front office. I mean, Trevor Lawrence isn't afraid of Mac Jones, and Trevor Lawrence is 20 and 30 in the NFL.
It's true.
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, he's 10 games under 500.
Cleveland is interesting.
You like that?
I do like that, I think.
I'm telling you the team to keep an eye on this year, though. And I'll be glad when we get him back from his paternity leave. But
Chafe?
Yeah. Minnesota is moving in the right direction. You know, they just got, Aaron Jones on the cheap. They got Aaron Jones for 1 year, $7 million.
Oh, yeah, that's a steal. That's robbery.
I mean,
like what some of these, and listen, I still, we had an interesting conversation about the running, or we started to have an interesting conversation about running backs last week.
Yeah.
Where you asked, at what point is the NFL going to turn back to the running game? Because everybody's playing with 6 defensive backs, and at some point, the inefficiency is they're not going to be able to stop.
And I looked at teams that couldn't go any further.
Any further in what sense?
Because they wouldn't run the ball.
Oh, sure.
Just imagine if Buffalo would have been in the playoffs, the team they were the last third of the season.
Yeah.
Where they handed the ball off.
Yeah.
Like that offense at times when they were running the football looked like You just have to hope they make a mistake. It looked almost unstoppable.
Yes. With
You know,
Cook?
yeah.
Yeah. They looked so good.
I mean, you look at Pacheco tote the load for Kansas City, and all of a sudden we're talking about where they belong again in the
And
pecking order of championship
I'm
caliber
not
teams.
crazy, right? Like Pacheco's not special. He's fine. Am I being too harsh on him? I don't look at Pacheco and be like, that's a special runner.
No, he is nice though.
He's fine. He's pretty good.
And he doesn't have the greatest vision, but
look at the guys we're talking about.
I like Pacheco. I like Pacheco.
Look at the guys we're talking about in free agency, though.
He runs hard.
He does run hard. I'll give him that.
And I'm not even counting Derrick Henry because if I'm Henry, I just lay in the cut.
Just wait for a good situation.
Rest up.
Yeah.
The guy doesn't need to be in training camp.
No.
He's a freak. And I get it. There's football shape.
Yeah, but
he's been extremely durable, and his regimen is unique.
Okay, I'm still thinking about Justin Fields here.
I'm telling you.
What about the Raiders?
That's the other one.
Pretty decent roster.
Cleveland or Las Vegas.
They need a quarterback.
And who are they going with right now? O'Connell? Before they make a move for a QB?
Well, I mean, they signed Minshew yesterday. Is that?
Yeah.
Are you having a
So they got him for $225, but he's not the answer.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. Is that the competition? Is O'Connell and Minshew?
Yeah,
like that. You can't just go into the season with that, can you?
Shane, I know you probably don't pay attention, but was he 225?
Minshew?
Yeah,
2 years for 20. I think so. I don't think most of that's guaranteed though.
So like they're in a good spot too, but they're one of those teams.
You can just give up a third for.
That's
Justin
after they
Fields,
stole
though?
Christian Wilkins. Like if you're Miami, how do you let Christian Wilkins leave?
And the Raiders overpaid a little, which you probably had to.
So it depends on what the last year looks like with the numbers.
Sure, yeah.
That's the thing.
There's a chance they overpaid a little,
You
but
know,
if you want somebody to move,
you're going to get 3 good ones probably
yes,
if he's healthy.
For sure. I look at Las Vegas. I go, I don't hate that roster. Although without Josh Jacobs now, I don't like it quite as much. But we'll see what they do there. And
defensively, they made some strides the last.
Yeah, like you're gonna have a pretty good defense. I think you bring in Wilkins.
They got good push up the middle.
You still got Devontae Adams.
You still got Crosby.
Like that's not a terrible situation for a guy like Justin Fields.
You got some holes in the secondary, but again, a lot of people have things that they need to address. But
who? I'm blanking here.
I think
their offensive coordinator.
In
Vegas. Is it Getsy?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Is he still there?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, you're taking me in the weeds right there. I think it is Getsy.
I think it is Getsy too. So how do you? I mean, I don't have strong enough feelings about Getsy to know how I feel about him with Justin Fields.
Well, I do think if you moved on from Carr in a heartbeat,
yes,
last year before you shipped him to New Orleans, so the organization is willing. You moved on from Garoppolo this year in a heartbeat. I think they're willing to search for what works.
I think that's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not? But I think it's got to be.
Ooh, so Getsy was just with the Bears.
It's got to be.
So I don't know if he wants to reunite with Justin Fields.
Yeah, but he's different head coach too. That give you some autonomy to maybe do what you want to do.
Yeah, we don't know how much was Eberflus. We don't know how much was Getsy. But there is at least a familiarity there. So if they did get along, that would kind of make sense.
And Fields had stretches towards the end of the season where he looked more than serviceable.
Yeah, he looked pretty. When they let him run, he looks good.
So, I mean, I think you're down to about 3.
So we're talking Raiders,
Chicago,
Browns,
or
Browns. Stays in Chicago. Yep. I don't think staying in Chicago is. Man, he kind of feels like a change of scenery guy. Like he needs a change of scenery. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I would. I mean, that's harsh. That's harsh.
That Fields needs a change of scenery?
No, that like to function. Like I think he could work in Chicago.
Okay, that's fair.
And I don't think the fan base has moved on from him. There are a lot of Chicago fans that wouldn't mind seeing Fields back.
No, I don't think they're
and go get a big time receiver in the draft.
How much of that has to do with the fact that a lot of Chicago fans don't love Caleb Williams? Like if there was somebody else at the top of the
Chicago,
draft that they
man.
left,
I think they want to win.
Okay, that's fair.
They won with Grossman.
Coming up next, we've got more Hurrdat Sports
Not
Radio.
exactly a quarterback-rich franchise.
That's true. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and I'm here to remind you that using your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries, but only if it is worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Well, the message in general, not the misspeak. That was all me. DB, I wanted to stick on this running game thing for a second here, because even if the NFL does turn back to running the ball a little bit better, I still don't know if that improves the market for running backs.
Yeah. Well, it's off, right? Because, and I get it, Saquon's a little different, but the difference, the pay disparity between Saquon and Eckler is unbelievable. Especially for their production, if you bottle it over the last 4 years.
Yeah, they're not that different of guys.
Yeah, and in the 4 years, I mean, you obviously have to include Saquon's injury, but it is what I mean. That's part of the deal, right? And Aaron Jones goes for 1.7. I'm not sure what Tennessee is doing
with Pollard.
But I don't even know what the running back market is, because it's not Barkley. Like that, the 14 mil. I don't know if that can be. That's not going to be the running back market.
No, because it's
and I saw this about 3 years ago with the safeties. I think it was Byard or somebody screwed up the whole safety market with a huge deal. I think, was it Byard? Maybe, and he's legit. Don't get me wrong, but somebody way overpaid for the safety spot, and it got screwed up. And I was like, well, that's going to take a couple of years to recalibrate at the. No, I'm serious, at the safety spot.
No, I know.
So I don't know if the market has been set for running backs, but I do think you got to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I look at, we mentioned Buffalo. You talked
realize,
about,
what's Dalvin Cook, 27?
Is he that even? Dalvin Cook might be a little older than we think.
I think he's a little younger. 28, maybe?
28. He's 28.
Okay. I ain't crazy.
No, you're not. You're not. I honestly, but the way he's talked about, I would have assumed he was like 31.
Well, we act like, and there's a good crop right in that range of running backs.
All of those guys that we talked about, outside of Aaron Jones, who is 29, everybody else, Saquon, Eckler, Jacobs, there was another one, all between 26 and 28.
Yeah, so it's not like it's passed you by.
No.
I mean, I think Minnesota brought Quisenberry back. Like, I get what some teams are trying to do.
Zach Moss signed with the Bengals.
I can't. So remember when I said be careful with Burrow?
Yeah.
Be careful, because even the vaunted Chiefs and their great front office had to buy Mahomes some time.
Yeah, because they messed up
with their defense.
Yeah, they messed up in the last offseason.
And he's the best on the planet.
Yes, not even close.
So you have to be careful in Cincinnati, right? If you move on from Higgins, which apparently looks to be the case, you still have Chase.
Being forced to move on from Higgins.
You're moving on from Mixon,
who, by the way, is only 27.
Highly productive.
I don't understand the trade-off from Mixon to Moss.
Money.
Okay, but
money.
But why?
Yeah.
But why?
Because they just don't want to pay. They just don't want to pay those guys.
That's dumb, though. He's productive.
But so far, at least out of the gates, it hasn't been terrible for the running backs in free agency.
No, they've done
its totality. They're playing a little catch up.
They've done a little better than I thought they would. Yeah. You've got several guys.
I still don't know what the market is.
No, but you've got. I think it's probably like in the 8 to 10 a year. It seems like that's where the guys
seems cheap, doesn't it?
It's super cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's middle linebacker money, kind of, right? Like that's basically what they've become. Is we don't really value guys in the middle of the field. Really, we don't value middle linebackers. We don't really. I mean, outside of the linemen, don't value middle linebackers. Don't really value running backs. It's a weird place for the game to have gone. But I'm curious because we saw this in college football as well too, where they totally moved away. Everybody was doing their spread offenses and things like that. And then we have Michigan come in and just pound the ball on their way to 3 straight playoff victories or 3 straight playoff appearances and a national title. You see, that's obviously how pre-Lane Kiffin Alabama was doing it. You see a little bit of that in Georgia, but maybe not to the same extent.
Maybe more so. They run the rock.
So you've got some highly successful teams.
Yeah, Georgia's probably the poster child.
I mean, I go Michigan because
Zamir White, McIntyre, those guys tote the peel.
And their line plays
everything was off of play action.
Really, really good. They have made a couple pretty, in my opinion, mediocre quarterbacks look way better than they are in Stetson Bennett and Carson.
Wash your mouth out.
I'm not a Stetson Bennett guy.
I know, but so far you haven't shown me that you have any sort of grasp of good quarterback play.
I'm not saying
it's always personal. Like sometimes it's just business. I have to cheer for lots of guys that I don't like because they're Shohei Ohtani. I cannot stand.
Why don't you like Shohei?
But he's really, really good.
Why don't you like Shohei?
Like we can't know the name of your dog. Right? Like you're cutting off any team that leaks any information about you. They're just these. Listen, and I'm not gonna hammer them because maybe there's some just cultural things with privacy and respect, which I don't get.
Yeah,
just not for me.
I also think we underestimate how aggressive the Japanese media can be.
Oh yeah,
did
you not see them at Cactus League? Like I was surprised. They announced when he's in the lineup, like 5 days previous.
Well, you have to. They got to be able to. They got to catch a flight.
Some, but there's like local markets in the area where they like farm it out.
Yeah, for sure. They've got kind of people stationed in this part of the country, at least for spring training too. But I think we underestimate how aggressive the Japanese
Lennox Lewis
can be.
Can't stand him.
Not a Lennox Lewis guy.
Great fighter.
Really good fighter.
Like sometimes you just got to come clean, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to root for guys I don't like.
You don't have to root for them.
I mean, you're rooting for Shohei,
but you can admit they're really good.
I can admit they're really good. I don't think Stetson Bennett's really good. I think he was really effective in the situation he was put in.
I think he was sensational for what he was.
What he was.
He was unbelievable.
He's the best Hobbit quarterback I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
Frodo couldn't have done anything compared to Stetson Bennett.
Man. You're wild.
Frodo can walk though.
And Stetson's got the rings too. We could call Stetson the Lord of the Rings. There we go.
His whole career, everybody told him what he wasn't. My man is still getting paid.
Wasn't 6 feet tall. I know that.
It's okay. Short people. Who are you, Randy Newman?
There's a lot of people that ain't over
short
6
people
feet.
Got
not a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, how tall is Fields?
Like
it's like 6'3",
6'4".
Fields is a monster.
This is a big dude.
How tall is? I mean, there's got to be somebody else.
Baker Mayfield. He's a little guy.
Mayfield.
Baker short.
Kyler Murray short.
The DB's new favorite quarterback is short. Russell Wilson.
He's my favorite, huh?
Well, he's got to be.
Yeah, you guys had a field day with that on social media. That was cute.
What? What do we have a field day on?
Verzal started it.
I don't even. What were we doing? I don't even know.
Mr. Unlimited. That's right. What did he say? What did he say? Instead of "let's ride," he said in the Steel City, "Let's say let's forge." Great.
Gotta go melt some metal.
I'll cheer for him. I mean, I don't know if I hope he does well.
Well, I mean, you have to hope he does well, right? Because he's quarterback of your team.
100%. And I'm also not going to sit here and tell you he's not good.
No, he's been good.
Yeah.
In the past, he really wasn't that bad last year.
Well, I know. I had to convince you of that.
No, you didn't. I came up with that on my own.
No, you didn't. You kept telling me how bad he was, and I go, you go back and look at his stats.
No.
They benched a guy that was like...
You're confusing Deshaun and Russell.
No, I know my quarter. You got lots of them on your hit list. McCarthy, Deshaun.
McCarthy's not on my hit list.
Yeah,
I just don't want to take him.
But you give back massages to Trevor Lawrence, and that guy has yet to get over the hump. You got an A+ talent with like C results, and you're like,
no, that's exactly what I
you're
said
like,
about Trevor
oh,
Lawrence.
do you have a kink in your neck?
He does
Let
have
me
A
brush
plus.
your hair.
He does have A+ talent, and he does have C results, and he needs to produce better. Otherwise, he's a total waste. I'm just not going to sit here and
I can't wait to hear you off draft day when somebody drafts McCarthy, and it'll be like the Vikings or something, and Shafe's just like rubbing it in that he's going to make a run at Rookie of the Year, even though he won't.
You can listen.
He won't.
You can have JJ McCarthy. I don't love a 6th pick of the draft for JJ McCarthy.
No.
You get him closer to like 16, I get a lot more comfortable.
What draft was that with like Ponder and
Oh, that was terrible. 2010.
And who's old boy from Washington?
The Jake
Locker.
Yeah. I think it was 2010.
It's not that draft.
Well, it'd be hard to be that draft. That was
just go back to, you don't even have to go there. Look at 2021. And you think those guys aren't good?
I think some of those guys aren't good.
So, and this is why I always laugh. And if people talk, if this is you, then I'm going to stop talking to you. But if you have people in your sphere of influence that are like, oh man, such and such is a system quarterback. Hey, listen, man, no kidding.
They're all system quarterbacks.
They're all, when it works,
they're all
system quarterbacks. Because guess what we do?
We put them in systems.
When it doesn't work, we always blame the quarterback.
Yeah.
We always blame the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, how about you coach the guy up?
That would be nice.
Like, how about you play to their strengths? How about you don't give a guy 3 coordinators in 3 years?
That seems like it would be helpful, I would think.
Are you talking about the Raiders?
Always talking about the Raiders.
Well, they're just some franchises like you just
The
can't
Raiders.
get behind in terms of handling quarterbacks.
It was 2011, not 2010. That's my bad.
I said 11.
It went Jake Locker at 8, Blaine Gabbert at 10, Christian Ponder at 12. That's a rough stretch there.
There's one more.
Go
Go later.
I'm looking.
And he actually may have been the best.
You had Andy Dalton at 35. You had Kaepernick at 36.
Dalton was that's a good spot for what you got out of the
Yeah,
Red Rifle.
If you are drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round, you cannot hope for better than Andy Dalton, really.
Yeah.
Newton was 1 that year, but then
Cambam?
Yeah, then it was Locker, Gabbert, Ponder, Dalton, Kaepernick, and then you don't have one until Mallet at like 74.
It's freaking bats.
It's a better quarterback draft than that year.
I think so.
And everybody like rushed, moving up, trading up.
Yeah, the Locker pick panicked everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
And then that started to move.
I watched a ton of Christian Ponder at Florida State. I could not wait for him to leave so EJ Manuel could start.
The only thing I can ever remember is about Ponder is playing with that giant bionic brace on his arm.
Yep, because he had an elbow deal.
Yeah,
that was weird.
But I don't know. Like I love free. I used to love free agency because I would always have to get my Madden roster set. But now, like,
you're not playing Madden anymore. Or they do it automatically.
Yeah, it auto updates.
I like this class. I like this quarterback class more than I like that class for sure.
Yeah.
Although I was weirdly high on Gabbert for some reason. Probably
we have bad taste in quarterbacks. Like so far, that's what's become evident. To me.
That's offensive. Okay, but what?
I'm just kidding. But not.
I was like, no, you're not. I like Penix. I don't understand. I mean, I understand the injuries with Penix, but I think part of my problem with this quarterback class is there are a bunch of dudes that I would take Penix over. That's, I think, the crux of my issue with like JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Is I look at those guys and I go, Penix is better. I understand the history, the injury concerns, right? You sit there and you go, this guy had 4 straight season-ending injuries, 2 knees, 2 shoulders, right? I understand. And if that's the only reason, I can live with that. But if I'm an NFL team and I know that Penix is going to be available early 2nd round, I would much rather draft Penix early 2nd round. I'm not saying you have to go up and draft him 6.
Yeah.
But I would much rather draft Penix early 2nd round than I would JJ McCarthy at 6 or Bo Nix at 12. That's my issue with this draft class.
Nix at 12 seems aggressive. Who was that? Charles Davis?
Yeah, that was Charles Davis.
Yeah.
That's the highest I've seen Bo Nix.
I I just don't think I would take Nix before Penix.
I certainly wouldn't.
But that's just me. But everybody's still fawning over Daniels too. So I mean,
you're out on Daniels.
I just think he's too small,
Too slight.
because what made him Daniels was running around.
That doesn't work great when you're small in the NFL.
He's just.
We haven't seen a lot of slight scramblers in the NFL be able to long-term have success because of injuries.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we haven't really.
I just don't know, like,
sustainability.
I just don't know if that translates.
Do you have an issue with his actual game, like watching him play?
No.
His
I don't
arm
really.
talent.
No, he's got tremendous arm talent.
So you're okay with everything else. It's just sort of like with Bryce Young. You're just like, I don't know if that frame holds up.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But I also liked Bryce Young.
I like Bryce.
I still like Bryce Young.
I do too. I like Bryce Young a lot.
I have no idea what Carolina's doing.
No.
But I dude.
No. Just train Burns out of there. They're not I don't know what they're doing. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like other teams, I can sort of see a path of, okay, like I was mad yesterday. The 49ers, or yesterday or 2 days ago, were letting go of Eric Armstead, right? But I can see, okay, there's money involved.
No way he winds up in Vegas. They don't, does he?
You're mad.
I'd rather end up in Vegas than somewhere in the NFC. Like that's fine. I don't care.
I don't know, man. Keep an eye on the Raiders making moves.
I mean, they should. Like if they get a few of the right pieces.
And for as crude as Pierce is, I don't know, man. I think he has some I think he has some stroke.
There's something there.
Out here.
Like you don't have a lot of interim coaches where people are threatening to quit the team if he doesn't get hired.
Well, they didn't do it with the last guy that got off to a good start. Did you want him to keep Sasha, Shane?
He was fine. I mean, he got off to a good start.
They moved on.
Yeah, they didn't even consider him.
They're like, They're
like, no, hey, thanks for your service. Peace.
Yeah,
get out of here.
And the players liked him. I mean,
my man,
why wouldn't you
Huskers
go with that?
nose. I have to be really, really specific. The Bills should have continued to run the ball in the fourth quarter against the Chiefs. Not that they stopped running the ball in the playoffs. Continued running the ball against the Chiefs.
Kind of like
they were running it down their throat.
Kind of like the 49ers
That's what
should
I
have continued to run the ball in the third quarter.
No, but he brings up an interesting point because Veach is kind of a stud. He's kind of angling, and I think Chiefs fans are, with what's going to happen with Snead. And I love Snead. I've like my love affair with Snead is well documented.
Yeah.
But they got Gay, they've got Snead, they've got Reed, and Reed is what, a 6-year guy? Is this his 6th year? I know they stole him from the Texans.
I think so. I think so.
But I told him, I said, even with Mahomes, it's the same thing that I'll tell you with Burrow, except on an even bigger scale, because Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet. The West is changing. So be careful of not valuing how good they were defensively a year ago. Like, I wouldn't be so quick to move on. And I get it. He trusts Veach. He's been amazing. Probably more defensively than offensively with the draft. But I'm telling you, the Raiders are going to be better than they were a year ago. The Chargers certainly are going to be better than they were a year ago. And who the heck knows with Denver? It's going to be a physical conference. Be careful about moving on from a ridiculously good defense across the board if you're a Kansas City fan, even with Mahomes. I get it. I think he can cover up more for you on offense than he can for you on defense.
Oh, I see.
For sure.
And you don't just go, listen, Snead was unbelievable. You're just not going to get that guy.
No.
Oh, we'll go get another guy.
No.
I don't know, man. It ain't Wiggins.
No.
I know that.
Well, and you look at, just the Super Bowl, what he did against Debo. Nobody does that.
Dude, they were unreal.
They were so good. Their defensive backs in the Super Bowl were so good. And they were like that all year. I do think, obviously really good quarterback play covers some of your defensive flaws because you have the ball so much and you don't have to be as perfect. But I think you're right. That team last year without that defense, doesn't win the Super Bowl. And
you think Jalen Hurts could have benefited from that secondary being better? That team was a mess defensively.
Are the Eagles going to be better this year?
They haven't had a bad offseason.
Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, I trust Jalen Hurts.
It's not a Jalen Hurts thing for me. It's so the things got weird at the end of last year.
Well, I think it happened from within.
Right, that's what I mean though. Like things got weird.
I'm not sure, like on the height, like.
But if that didn't
how
get
they're
fixed,
managing that's what I don't know if it was the personalities or the staff, because it seemed to be pretty good 2 years before that, and I know he lost his coordinators. I do.
But Sirianni's
were they holding that together?
Yeah, I don't totally know about Nick
No,
Sirianni.
I get it. Oh, he's coaching for his.
Yeah, it's a put up or shut up time for Sirianni.
100%.
And I
you gave Hurts big money.
There's a vibe about him that I don't totally love.
He's a little awkward.
Yeah,
but
a lot of
offensive
geniuses quote unquote are.
Yeah,
but he's not. I don't know. There was something about him outside of the because Mike McDaniel's super awkward, but he's likable.
Yeah,
Nick Sirianni doesn't come off as super likable.
I mean,
that's just the vibe. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a.
So full disclosure, remember he had the super weird introductory press conference where he was giving the weird eyes.
Yeah,
he's since then he's been again press conference guy here.
Was that him? Didn't Gase have one of those too?
Yeah.
Where he had like the super weird eyes.
But remember, Sirianni was like darting around. He was like looking around.
Yeah.
And I think he rocking the visor. And
probably he's always rocking the visor.
And but since then he's been much better. And that media is tough.
Oh, for sure. It's a tough market.
And how about this? How about all the interdivisional movement?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why Tiki got bent out of shape with Barkley.
I don't listen to Tiki.
I don't either, but I think that's kind of the core of what, I think that's kind of the core of what's the interdivisional movements. It's not like, it's not like the Giants were going to pay him that money.
Aaron Jones is going to tote the mail in Minnesota.
For Minnesota.
And I get it. If you can cheer for Favre.
Yeah, you can.
You can cheer for Aaron Jones. It's just weird.
Yeah. It is super strange. I feel like that's less of a consideration than it used to be.
Yeah.
It feels like back in the day.
Because I certainly would take Grant Delpit in Pittsburgh.
I feel like back in the day.
I know, hey, I'd take you.
I feel like, I bet you take Joe Burrow in Pittsburgh too.
Back in the day.
Now you're pushing it. No, I'm kidding. I love it because of the fan. I like the family.
Yeah. Okay. So Joe Burrow's a bad example, but
yeah. Joe Burrow's great.
You take Lamar Jackson in Pittsburgh.
Actually, I probably not.
Really?
I don't like Lamar.
Okay, so who's got the problem with the quarterbacks now?
But it's different. I'm not saying he's not good.
You're saying because you don't like Lamar, you don't want him in Pittsburgh?
What's so hard to understand about that? If given the choice, if I can cheer for guys that I actually like versus not, I'm going to take the guy that I like. Doesn't mean that he's not a good player.
Okay, but given your
you think I'm chomping at the bit to move on from LeBron? No, I can't stand him though.
Given your current quarterback situation, it's not like you love Russell Wilson.
I don't want to play offense like that.
All right.
I don't.
You just think it's hard to win that way in the playoffs or what?
It hasn't worked.
That's fair.
For whatever the reason. And it's not even a finesse run game. It just hasn't worked.
That's why I have a hard time with the James Harden style of offense in the NBA playoffs.
You love isolation.
I do not. How dare you?
Ravi for ISO ball.
You can tell me I don't know anything about quarterbacks. Don't even go to ISO ball. That's uncalled for. Coming up next, we got more Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN.
It's 8:30 already?
It is 8:30 already.
That is wild.
Flying by. Time flies when you're having fun.
We're trying to figure out when's the last time one of my favorite players played for my favorite team. That is rare.
While you're trying to figure that out, another place the time will fly because you're having fun is at the Omaha Supernovas on Thursday. We will give tickets away. Let's do it tomorrow, Shane.
Hey, Shane, how about tomorrow?
You want to give tickets away tomorrow, Shane?
I think tomorrow would be a good idea.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to give away tickets to the Atlanta Vibe coming to visit the Omaha Supernovas. That match is on Thursday, March 14th. We will give tickets away, 4 of them tomorrow. and you can buy tickets if you're like, I don't want to take the chances with the radio show. I get it. You want to make sure you get your tickets to the Supernovas because we're trying to set more records here. Talked to Coach Kuhn last week. We need the 12,000. Get it done, folks. Go to supernovas.com, get tickets, take a look at the schedule. You can buy some merch as well. All of that at supernovas.com. So when is the last time one of your favorite players played for your team? That's an interesting question.
Like that I liked before they went to
well, both, right? Like, okay, so let's take
So one that comes to mind pretty easily is Troy Palmao.
because you like USC.
Loved him in college.
Went to the Steelers, thrilled to
Went
death.
Yep.
Okay. Who's a guy that you liked after they came to the Steelers?
Le'Veon Bell.
Okay. That's a good one.
Hated Le'Veon Bell.
In college? Not a fan?
I hate his running style.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a
but
little...
I like what he meant for those guys because he was versatile.
Sure.
So I kind of grew to like him. I saw him on Friday. I finally saw Lee Barfnick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, who I owe lunch to because he told me that Le'Veon Bell was going to be a good pro.
Yeah.
And I was like, not a snowball's chance in heck. But I also didn't know that Le'Veon was going to lose like 26 pounds and get shredded.
Yes. He also he's got like a very weird, like overly patient.
Yeah, you call it patience, I call it tiptoeing.
I was hesitance, happy feet.
I can't stand
Can't
it.
hit the hole because that's one of your big things, right? Like, hey, hit the hole and go.
Yeah, just see the crease. Just see it and
Just
get
see
in
it and go.
Yeah, see it.
And he does not do that. That's not his vibe.
The last time I think now it's easy to think of some guys that have gone to teams that I can't stand, even out of the draft.
Mhm.
I remember when the Steelers drafted Limas Swede.
Texas.
Oh my gosh, I almost lost my mind. And Landry Jones. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we doing?
I
I liked Hood Schifino in college
okay, that's a good one.
when he went to the Lakers.
Drunk Monk says with Russell Wilson, Steel City, let's weld.
It's gonna be a long. It's gonna be a long.
We're gonna have a fun.
That would be like
We're gonna have a fun football season.
Matt
TV.
Cain or Tim Lincecum going to the Dodgers.
Oh, the freak, Timmy Lincecum.
Yuck.
Walter.
That guy blew a lot of trees.
We're just gonna keep on moving. Walter on YouTube says, "What idiot GM is gonna fall in love with Joe Milton and pick him too early?" Somebody.
He's probably the next on that. Oh man, I know we can change him.
Oh, for sure.
I know we can change him.
They're gonna be like, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Somebody's gonna look at the stats and be like, "Oh, I didn't throw a lot of picks. Completion percentage was okay. He never got the opportunity to be.
He is a monster, though.
No, physically, he's unreal.
Yeah,
he's huge. He's like 6'5", 250.
Did you watch him? Go back and watch. You have the combines on in your library?
Yeah.
Watch how he waited for guys on those go routes.
Yeah, because he wanted to.
He's just he's just like,
yeah, I can throw it 80 yards in the air. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
he is. I mean, they're gonna look at him. They're gonna see, okay, prototypical size, even better than that, 6'5", 245, 250, whatever you want to call him. And here's where they're gonna convince themselves. They're gonna look at his stats and say, man, he didn't play a ton. Only 1 year as like a full-time starter.
Mm-hmm.
37 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Oh, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Over 60% completion percentage. His 2 years as kind of the main starter, over almost 65%. He was pretty productive. I can see that. He had 1 year, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. His full-time starter year is 20 touchdowns, 5. Somebody's going to talk themselves into Joe Milton.
Yeah, he's a day.
How early do you think someone's going to talk themselves into it?
He's probably a second rounder, maybe third.
I was going to say third.
Somebody will take a chance
because he's a monster. He's enormous.
Like somebody
physically, he's literally everything you want out of a quarterback.
Yeah.
But physically speaking, there's some other stuff that's apparently not there.
So I said this yesterday. I feel like this has been NFL heavy. Why do you think Drake May has slid?
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I actually thought about that a lot, and I don't really know.
I thought he threw it well.
Did he maybe not interview well?
So it was either on Twitter or text. Somebody was letting me a couple guys that they're out on May. Like thought he was the epitome of the system.
Johnny Pig on Twitter was hitting us up about saying he's Zach Wilson, which I don't think is. I don't see that.
But a lot of people like Daniels.
Zach who?
A ton of people.
It's
like
easy
Daniels.
to fall in love with the highlight reel of Jaden Daniels, right?
Yeah,
because it's incredible to watch. It's incredible to look at.
So which quarterback? So New England's going to take a quarterback.
They have to.
Minnesota's going to take a quarterback.
You have to imagine.
The Commanders are going to take a quarterback.
I got to go to my draft spots now. Hold on.
So
Commander, where are Commanders drafting? Like
second?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So 1, 2, and 3 are all going to take quarterbacks, right? We think.
Yeah.
Because Chicago is, right? We're not.
So how much of this?
We're not dancing around.
Would you
Chicago.
be a guy? Would you be a guy? It's probably easy in our seats. Could you have enough
in our seats?
Could you have enough conviction to say you're the guy that passed on Caleb Williams?
I'd have to trade back to do it. I'm not taking someone else at 1, but if I don't love him, I'll trade back to 2 or 3.
I still don't. I still like the idea.
It's the Markelle Fultz thing, right? Markelle Fultz was the consensus number 1.
Yeah.
Celtics weren't sold on him. They like Jason Tatum, but they're like, hey, we're not going to take Tatum 1 because we know we can get him at 3. If I'm the Bears, if I'm Ryan Poles and I am not in on Caleb Williams, that's the move.
Although they look like geniuses, although some Boston Celtics fans are not entirely enamored with Tatum.
There's a stupid thing that I do. I call it the Lulla stars, and he's not one of them. They're guys that are like the reason you win a championship in the NBA. He's not one of them.
Yeah.
Like I look at that guy.
We've talked about your rating.
Yes.
Yeah.
I look at him. I'm like, I don't know if you're winning the title with him as your best player. Maybe. Like, it's still possible, but look at him.
They fall on their face this year, especially. There's no excuse.
They shouldn't have lost to that Warriors team. They were better than that Warriors team.
Yeah, let me go back to
but what, the Bears?
Yeah. So okay, you trade back, but you wouldn't pass on Williams.
I wouldn't pass on him at 1. Like I'm not sitting there at 1 if I'm the Bears and taking someone else. But it's still passing on him though, right? If you trade back.
Yeah. Is Verse the first defensive player to go? Does Verse seem like the best defensive player in the draft?
Some people really like Dallas Turner from Alabama.
Well, he had a heck of a combine.
Incredible combine. Some people have got, the Athletic has.
It's either Verse or Turner, right?
Well, the Athletic has Mitchell going over Verse.
I think it's a little high. You talking about Quinyon?
Yeah.
No, so I think that's a little high. And full disclosure.
Sure.
So this tells you how fast things can change. 3 weeks ago, just 3 short weeks ago, I was hoping Mitchell would fall to the Steelers.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
I didn't think he would be the first corner off the board, and he's not going to be, I don't think.
To be fair, it really depends on who you ask, because the cornerback market this year in the draft is really wild because there's like 5 guys.
I know, and there's something wrong with, like, even Mitchell, for as much as he got picks. They still played a ton of zone.
There's an issue. There's a but with all of them, right? There's 5-ish guys that there's not a ton of separation between.
Wiggins, McKinstry, Mitchell, and Bama's other dude.
Yeah, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But yeah, there's like 4 or 5 guys right in that same zone, probably all going to go somewhere between like 10 and 30. And none of them are super high-end guys that you're going to take top 2, 3, 4 overall.
Yeah.
But I think
Terran Arnold.
That's right. I think a lot of them could be good players, but there's a but for each one of those guys. I'm a bad person to ask on Jared Verse because I really, really love him. But and he put up good numbers for.
Yeah, you're still the guy telling me that Fiske should go in the first round.
No, not first round, but like he's a good second round player.
Yeah, 100%.
I like Braden Fiske a lot. He was really good for Florida State this year. Coming up next, more NFL. We got Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. I'm going to ask her the question we've asked each other a couple times and haven't been able to come up with an answer with. At what point do you take a chance on Justin Fields before you draft a quarterback? Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
And we have our guest now.
We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, We are joined now by Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Cynthia, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. We're hanging in there. How are you keeping up? This is like I was joking with Ravi yesterday. It's like drinking out of a fire hose.
It's absolutely like we have a whole team in this NFL Network newsroom, and it's fun, Whole team.
So most recently, Aaron Jones goes for the 1 year, $7 million to Minnesota. And by the way, I think they're having an outstanding offseason. But I say all that to say, running backs appear to be doing well, but do we really know what the running back market is in terms of a pay scale? There's been some wide variance.
Well, I actually think the pay is not crazy. They've gone first because of scarcity and the perception of scarcity, but they don't necessarily, Saquon Barkley got basically the same deal as Gabe Davis. Which is wild.
Somebody's gonna. I joked about this, not to cut you off, Cynthia. 2 weeks ago, I said somebody's gonna overpay for Gabe Davis, and he's probably a number 3.
I actually think it says more about. I don't think that the Jags even really overpaid. I just think the wide receiver market is. It's just a different market.
With the cap space now.
Yeah,
you get some mid guys that'll make like $8 million a year, and you're like, wait, what? What?
Right? You're like, okay, good time to be a mid wide receiver.
It's like one of the
So what is the running back pay scale market? Do you think?
Well, we'll have to see where Derrick Henry comes in. I think he'll be around 6.5 to 8, but because that one's interesting to me, but. I think that it's pretty much settled where it is. Top end, they do get double digits, but I think like 9-8 million for a year is probably right around where it's at least in this turn of, this turn of free agency and this turn of where we're at with the NFL. Like maybe a couple more years it'll change, but I think as of right now, it is what it is now.
We're talking with Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Cynthia, this is a question that DB and I have been bouncing back and forth between each other for a couple weeks. I don't think we've landed on an answer, so now we're going to bring in the expert. We've been talking about Justin Fields and what his market is a lot. Seems like you could definitely get him for a second, maybe even less than that at this point. But if you're an NFL team in the market for a quarterback, where in the draft do you say, I'd rather have Justin Fields over X player? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a few things are, one, where's my ownership with me in terms of rebuilding versus winning now?
Mm-hmm.
How long is my leash? Number two, what else do we have around this person? Because like Justin Fields is a good player. I think, it's strange he hasn't gone anywhere yet, but the trading parts of this free agency haven't really happened yet. Like we'll see L'Jarius Sneed, he'll get traded, so I think it's going to be an interesting one. But if you don't have a guy, if you're not in striking distance for a draft pick, of one of these top quarterbacks, and you don't have a guy that you want, you need to go get Justin Fields right now.
So it's interesting because I want to get to the market, right? We came up with either the Bears, the Browns, or the Raiders, maybe for Justin Fields. But at what point, because I saw it with Mac Jones, the 3 coordinators, Fields showed flashes late. At what point, and I hear a lot of people now like really upset with the handling of young quarterbacks. At what point does, the OCs and quarterback coaches need to take responsibilities for the lack of fit or how they handle young quarterbacks?
Yeah, there's a break point there. We saw the AD testing between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young last year. Look at the difference between CJ Stroud, who both of them have just tons of talent, but CJ Stroud was given the right quarterback coach, the right offensive coordinator, the right cultivation of, mentors that were in the building. Mark Brunell was down there. Like they really tried hard to help him succeed, whereas Bryce Young wasn't given those opportunities. So, it is a break point. At some point you can't, over devote resources to something. You need to cut, I would say with Trey Lance, I think that the Niners did it right? Like if it wasn't going to work for them, they had to cut their losses before it messed up their team. But, self-awareness is really hard. And Justin Fields absolutely got messed up by, whatever's been happening there. But on the other hand, we just saw Sam Darnold sign a contract, and he's now had a few different locations, and same with Baker Mayfield. So there's something to be said for the comebacks that are able to be had as well.
Cynthia, a quarterback that's been flying up boards that I don't totally get the placement of is JJ McCarthy. I know people really liked him at the combine. How do you feel about JJ McCarthy? Because I'm seeing him as high as like 6 on some draft boards now, and I don't know, that just feels high to me.
He was the biggest draft riser for sure, but at the combine, he did most to bolster his case to be at least, highly taken. I don't know what, where that ends up being. The funny part about these mock drafts that we do is that, number one, it's free agency technically it hasn't started till Wednesday,
They
right?
can't,
So,
yeah.
Can actually
Hey,
sign
but there's no
anything.
tampering or anything. I know. It's just weird.
Right. Right. So, but yeah, like we've got, it'll be interesting to see. But I think JJ McCarthy, if you're going to take a swing on someone, the quarterback position, especially with, like the $50 million contracts these guys are getting now, even with the cap going up, you really do benefit from taking a swing on a rookie contract with a guy who you think you can mold. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're thinking like, okay, like this is it, he's the best. It's just more that first round, you get that extra year of a rookie contract to be able to do a deal with them. It gives you some ability to structure your cap differently. And then you can look a little bit more like, let's say, the Eagles, and a little bit less like, let's say, the Saints.
So what do you see happening in Cincy? I'm a little worried for Burrow. No Mixon, and sure you get Moss on the cheap. What happened with T. Higgins? It's a kind of a strange situation because what took
Totally
so long?
Strange situation.
Well, they tagged him last week, but we just not talking trades. Is that something that they knew was going to be on the horizon because they weren't going to get a deal done? Or when they tagged him, do you think they thought that they could get a deal done?
I think that they thought they could get a deal done. And with the cap going up, I think they thought, you know what? This will be a guy who now we can use this cap space. And I'm just not sure how they factored all those things in. But I think he'll end up being there. And I think the cap space situation will be one where, he's able to be happy for 1 year, but it is a 1-year deal. Let me be clear, because they're going to pay Jamar Chase.
Cynthia, on the defensive side of the ball, talking draft here a little bit. I know both guys had a great combine. Who do you think goes off the board first? Is it Dallas Turner for Alabama or Jared Verse for Florida State? Or I guess just which one of those two guys do you like better?
Yeah, I don't know which one. I think which one goes first. That's a hard question, but I think I like Dallas Turner just a tiny bit better. Only because when I'm watching the film and I'm watching the tape, his burst is just a tiny bit faster. I mean, now we're splitting hairs here. I think both are very, very good players, but burst to me, you can't train that differently. You can't teach that. You can't teach speed. So I think that's one of those things that, again, 1A, 1B.
So both guys have some injury history. Do you like Cooper DeJean or do you like McKinstry?
Can I go off the board and go with no, I like Cooper DeJean. He's great.
Of the two, I'm just talking about the corners because all the corners, Mitchell played a lot of zone, but he turned it, he got turnovers and Wiggins can run, but where will he be in run support? Of the guys that kind of have a little injury bugaboo, that's why I narrowed it down to DeJean and McKinstry, not the best corner. Because who do you think is the best corner?
Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah,
I love him.
I know.
He's my favorite.
I joked with Ravi 3 weeks ago. I was like, at one point, I felt like Mitchell could fall to the Steelers. And then 3 weeks happened, and it's like he could be the first off the board.
Right?
It happened fast.
So fast, right?
With DeJean, do you trust the reports? Because for all intents and purposes, he's a stud.
I love what I saw on film from him. And, I think if there's one thing that these NFL teams really do very, 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 very well, and across the board they're great, it's like they do get the right medical. They like no one's getting tricked. So, I haven't heard anything that would suggest that DeJean would be not okay going for either one. Really, would be not okay going forward. So then that to me means go back to the tape. Sure, it could mean a different schedule in terms of training camp or when they start practicing, but end of the day, I think you're splitting hairs there, and to me, it's like you take the better talent, and I think DeJean's pretty special.
Cynthia, last one here from me, and we'll get you out of here on this. Out of the guys that you saw at the combine, I know that we've talked about a lot of the headliners, but was there kind of an under the radar guy that you walked away thinking, man, I really like him?
It's funny this year because just anyone from Washington was such a good, they were such a good interview. It was kind of amazing, not to say that they usually aren't good, but you're sitting there being like, I don't know, man, it's crazy. I'm gonna say his name wrong. Fautanu, Fautanu.
Fatanu. Yeah. That guy.
We're not there yet, but he interviewed so well. He was just so fun, so not and to me, this is such a strong offensive line class, and if you get people with that kind of personality, and you can teach them how to be the pro that you want, and they play a really premium position, it might not sound sexy saying oh yeah, I love so and so, but the Washington tackle really came out strong, and I really liked his personality too.
That's Cynthia.
We'll just go with Troy.
Yeah, well, it's just Troy.
Troy.
We'll just...
Yeah, his name's Troy.
Cynthia, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
That's Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. John Fanta coming up next. We're kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We're going to be talking to John Fanta here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I need to remind you, just got a couple days left to get entered in and get those entries in for Warhorse Casino's $1 Million Bracket Challenge. If you get a perfect bracket, you've got your shot at $1 million. You can get entries by having $50 sportsbook tickets or 50 points on slots and racing, and you need to be a Warhorse Rewards member. You've got 2 more days till the 14th in order to get those entries racked up. Even if you don't get the $1 million in a perfect bracket, there's still $10,000 in prizes for the top brackets. You'll make your picks after Selection Sunday, but before the first game, and make sure you go validate your entries at the Warhorse Casino in Lincoln. If you've got any questions, make sure you go to warhorsecasino.com for a full list of rules and details. That's Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. John will be joining us here shortly via the StreamYard.
I like the JMU clip because they're going to get somebody.
Yeah, you think so? You like them?
It's a good team.
Where are they looking at in terms of seeding?
I would guess they're going to be an 11.
James, 11, 12 looks like somewhere in there, 11 or 12. That's a good spot if you're trying to pull an upset.
It's a good basket. Somebody's going to be like, oh, the Dukes, they're fearless. Their style of play is relentless.
How about their athletic department in general?
Oh, James Madison? Oh,
yes.
I know. Just made a seemingly seamless transition.
Not just seamless, but wildly successful. Unreal.
I think they got a game day visit, didn't they?
I think so.
I think they lost that day.
Probably. That's okay. But
they got a game day visit.
That is a crazy transition that they've made.
That's a good basketball team.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they get someone. They're hanging out right now with another team in that 12 line that I kind of low key really like. I think you do too. South Florida.
Oh yeah. So isn't it funny? People like them. You probably thought I was being weird. Remember that Sunday?
Yeah, you texted me. They play in Memphis.
Yeah, and it was the second Sunday in a row, and I go, apparently, you don't want to play South Florida on a random Sunday
because they can.
Do you remember that?
Yes, and they can.
That was a minute ago.
Yeah,
they go get buckets.
Yeah, they can fill it up, and that's a team. If they're on a 12 line, that you want no part of.
Who did I see them dismantle? Was it FAU and then Memphis in back-to-back Sundays?
I think so, yeah. But if you're right now, they've got Clemson as a 5.
See, that's a team I don't like.
That's what I mean. If you're Clemson, you go up against South Florida, like that's a mess.
So I wanted to do this like kind of on a humbug before the tourney starts of the 8, 9, 7, 10s.
Okay.
And I only use that range because those teams are closely related together.
There's not a ton of difference.
How many lower seeds, the number lower?
Yep.
Okay. The number lower seeds will you see favored in those games?
Ooh.
Because what is that, 16 games?
Yes. Well, 16 teams, so 8 games.
8 games, I mean.
Yeah. 16 teams, 8 games. So
the 10, 7s, 8, 9s.
So right now, I'm looking at bracket matrix. Their 7s are Dayton, Nevada, Gonzaga, Florida. I could see, Florida's playing well right now.
Half the 8, the lower seeded team will be favored.
Ooh. Yeah, because Boise, St. Mary's, and Northwestern are all slotted as 8s right now, and I could see them all being dogs to the 9s.
I bet you'll see a 10 favored over a 7.
Depends on who it is. The 10s right now
obviously.
The 10s right now are a little squirrely. You've got TCU, Michigan State, Mississippi State, and Seton Hall. And I don't love any of those teams right now.
Howard, it's at last week last week, TCU or Nebraska and Seton Hall were being seated on the same seed line.
Yeah, Nebraska's
since moved. But.
Yeah, Nebraska's bumped up to a 9 now, which is, we talked about this yesterday, still probably underseeded. But I don't look at any of those teams on the 10 line right now and say, I love those teams. But I don't think there's a ton of difference between the 7s and the 10s. I think you're talking razor margin there.
Yeah.
And because I don't look at Gonzaga as special right now. They're playing a little better than they were.
Be careful.
They're playing better than they were.
That's a good basketball team now. They'll drub St. Mary's tonight for the championship.
Yeah,
they will tonight.
I think so.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're probably right. They'll probably beat up on
St.
Mary's.
I think they're top 10 in offense and top 50 in defense.
Can't win a national title. Top 50, you got to be in top 40.
And I'm not going to allow myself
or top 25.
I think 2 out of the last 5 years I took Gonzaga to win it.
Yeah, I did the Holmgren year. I think. Was that Holmgren Suggs on the same team? Or was Holmgren the year after? Holmgren was the year
after. Was
that
the half-court shot from Suggs' year?
That was over UCLA. That was in 2021 because there was nobody in the building.
And I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to be mad that I did it.
I loved that Gonzaga team with Jalen Suggs. I know you have an affinity for Suggs, but I remember at the beginning of the year texting our friends, Maddie DeMarinis and Jacob Padilla, and I was like, are we sure Jalen Suggs isn't the best player in the country?
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah.
And they're like, no,
I don't like his I didn't like their point guard situation in Orlando. They had 2 of the same type guys on the roster, but
yeah,
he's playing a lot better.
He needs
he had a game winner last week.
He needs to keep shooting it a little bit better. That's kind of the thing that'll keep him, or that'll make the difference on what type of NBA player he ends up being. But I really like Jalen Suggs coming out of Gonzaga.
I think it's going to be really interesting because I think
not as much as I liked Chet though. I love Chet.
Yeah, Chet's balling.
By the way, we got John.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, let's bring him in. John Fanta. He covers basketball for just about everybody. But he specifically for Field of 68 and Fox Sports as well. John, how are you this morning?
Doing great, guys. Thank you for having me. One of the best weeks of the entire year. It's nonstop fun, nonstop madness now.
All right, so let me so a little different because you were on the broadcast the other day with Georgetown and Creighton, which was a very interesting game. Your guys' professionalism for how that game was being called or not called, I thought was like pretty spectacular because it was very mucky and teams couldn't get going. How good of a story did you find yourself getting caught up in? How good of a story Georgetown, the women's team, was in terms of making that run that they did? I know it came to an end against UConn, but did you find yourself like quietly wanting to root for them?
Well, Damon, yes, I did. And I'll tell you why. Because I lost my dad in late January. And suddenly, and I was thinking about doing this job every day for him now. And I'm thinking about these young women who are playing so hard and so intensely and laying themselves out on the hardwood and out on the line to win and to find a way to win. And the way that they approach, if you're going to play the Creighton women, and this is the ultimate respect to Jim Flannery's program, you cannot take a playoff. You can't. If you take 3 minutes off in the game could be over. They could go on a 10-0 run. You're calling a timeout. You're down by 10. You could be fighting an uphill battle for the next 2 hours because they're so attentive to detail. They're so efficient. They're such a great shot-making team. And it just felt like, you know what it felt like? At some point, Creighton was going to be able to go on that run, that patented Creighton run. But Georgetown just kept breaking it up, possession by possession. And, you know, I don't want to get, I don't want to make it even bigger, but I did feel as though it was this calling the game. Oh, this was a team that was honoring their late coach, Tasha Butts, who, for those, again, who don't know, passed away at 41, gone way too soon from cancer in October. This group of young women, 18 and 22-year-old women, went to her funeral service on Saturday before the season started. Got on a plane, flew down to Georgia Friday, drove 2 hours to get to the funeral service, went to the funeral service Saturday, got back on a plane, flying commercial here, figuring it out, landed Sunday, practiced for an hour, played a game Monday, ended up starting the season 9-1, their best start in years, get their first 20-plus win season since 2012. Now, if you don't believe in something higher based on this story, I was just thinking about them and how they were taking things play by play. And it was inspirational for myself and Kim Adams, my partner, who unfortunately lost her mom last summer, because all of us who have experienced loss, and this is what I love about this time of year, all of us who have experienced loss take things play by play, if not day by day. And that's how I called the game, and that's what I was watching on the court. And as a result, it became a human element. That is what makes this month magical. At the end of the day, what CBS and Turner do an amazing job of is they humanize March Madness. That it's more than just a player going for 25 points. We get to learn who that player is as a human being. And when a dream is coming true, and when you're overcoming adversity, that's the magic of this month. And I felt that with this Georgetown team.
Man, that's an unbelievable answer and story.
Talking
there,
to
John.
somebody that lost my father and my brother 2 years apart last 7 years. So I'm with you there. I wanted to lay out and let you do your thing as we change gears to men's.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you. I mean, just sharing that with us, John. And you know, another kind of one of those stories you're talking about played out on the men's side as well with the Drake basketball team, with the DeVries family, where Coach DeVries lost his nephew. That was, you know, an Arch Madness was a really big thing for that whole family. Obviously, Coach, you know, D-Rock, as we call him around here, has a huge history in that tournament. And you could see the emotion there as well. And so I felt, you know, having been around D-Rock a lot here in Omaha, I was
It's one of those guys I have a blind spot
for. I was
so
where
I kind of get irrational when it comes to, he's a super guy.
But at the same time, I feel for this Indiana State team that had an incredible year. And 28 wins, has a great star and likable personality in Richie Avila. And you sit there and you go, is this team really going to get left out of the tournament?
Right. Well, that's the $1 million question. And it's a huge question for the selection committee to have to answer. And here's why. If Indiana State is left out of the tournament, then next season we should not be waking up day in and day out saying, what's the net today?
Yeah.
Because the Sycamores, they answer that bell with a net of 29, meaning they could play you anywhere right now, and it would be a quadrant 1 game.
Yeah.
So you break it up and you look at what they've done. Now they have 22 combined Q3, Q4 wins. But why is that? Committee, be smart. It's because nobody wants to play them. Nobody wanted to play them. Now Michigan State played them, and to their credit, beat them.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, because Michigan State won that game, they're not deeper on the bubble right now. Had they not won that game, I don't think we'd be talking about them in the same light. I don't care that they have a net of 24. They have more opportunities than Indiana State. The fact is they have 5 quad 2 losses. They've done nothing to help themselves in the second quadrant, the Spartans. But this team deserves to dance. This team would beat all of the high majors that are firmly on the bubble, in my humble opinion. But as we know, the history of this tournament seems to lean to the high major that went 18-13 rather than the team in Indiana State who went 27-6. So this is a big test for the committee. Why would this team win a game? Well, Tucker DeVries is an absolute bucket.
He is amazing.
Yes. As part of a top 25 KenPom offense. And you go from him to Wright, who can really shoot the three, had 3 of them in the title game, 17 points. Darnell Brody was in the Big East at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He is a physical player, has been around the block. The guy's a grown man, okay? He could be a pro wrestler. They've got physicality, they've got shooting, and they've got a team that did what they could, okay? It's really, really hard to schedule when you're at a level like Indiana State. I wrote this last week about James Madison, and I'm so happy for the Dukes that they're making the NCAA tournament because they would have been left out if they did not win the Sun Belt. Mm-hmm. It's wrong. It's a big problem in college basketball right now because high majors don't want to play these teams. So they're trying to expand the tournament. All right? You want to expand the tournament? Go for it. But do not expand it past 76 teams. But if you're going to add 8 teams, let half of them be the teams like Indiana State in this role. Give the mid-major a chance to play the high major. Let's settle the debate on the court.
Mm-hmm. John, I'm glad you said that because I that's the argument I've been making all week for the mid-majors over the high majors that have had the opportunities. We know what Michigan State is, right? They had opportunities to play teams that are going to be in the tournament, and they were found wanting, right? Indiana State hasn't had hardly any of those opportunities outside of a Michigan State, for example. But my question, I guess, is why do you think we've arrived at this place where 18-13 or whatever in a major conference carries more weight than 28-6? Is it just that we're relying on the metrics a little too much? We see a Michigan State as a 24 or whatever it is they are and say, oh, well, they've got to be a tournament. Like, is that what's happened, or why do you think we've gotten to this point?
Well, the scheduling advantages that those high majors get are I think, one, coming to fruition here when we're evaluating these teams, because I do think that the net and the metric system really, really values the strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. But it's not an equal opportunity thing in college basketball. Okay? So you want to say a team tested themselves, right? You know, Creighton tests themselves. They play some teams that other teams would not play, mm-hmm. right? They went out to Nevada. They played a UNLV team that's ended up being, better than I think we originally thought. They go to their MTs. They play at Colorado State, and the list. You play Alabama. Mm-hmm. Like, you go and test yourselves. Okay, that's great. That's great. How have we arrived at the point where the 18-13? The thing about it is I want teams to test themselves. And I often think that, like, the Q4 win does you no good. Mm-hmm. In fact,
not near as much as a Q4 loss can hurt you.
That's right. That's absolutely right, which is exactly why you should play the quad 1 or quad 2 team, Damon, is because if you do that, you're going to help yourself a lot more than you would ever harm yourself. This is why I don't get what coaches are like, I don't want to play anybody opening week of the season. Why? Why not? If you lose, we're like, they played somebody. It's a long season. They'll be fine. If you ever lost the Q3 or Q4, we'd be like, yep, they're done. Cooked. See ya. See you next year. Oh, that coach is on the hot seat too. But here's my thing. How have we arrived at this point? It's not just the metrics. Okay? Name brand matters. Name brand matters like it does to everything. And there's somebody out there right now that disagrees with me and that's rolling their eyes in their car or that doesn't like this take. But there's a human element to that committee room. And they answer at the end of the day to their television partner.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's up to Turner and Virginia and St. John's are on the bubble and Indiana State and Colorado are on the bubble, who do you think's getting into the NCAA tournament this Sunday?
Yeah.
It's nobody wants to hear it. We'll see. I hope I'm proven wrong, and I'll come back on this show and I'll give a public apology to the committee. But names matter. Rick Pitino's won 5 in a row. One of the wins was a good win, and now he's in the NCAA tournament. I'm happy for them. Good for them. I hope that they make it for their sake. But really, that they've won 5 in a row, and 3 of them are to teams named Georgetown and DePaul.
I'm going to reserve judgment on St. John because they could see Creighton in the Big East Championship, and it's a tough matchup for the Jays. So I'm not going to sling any arrows. Sure. Let me ask you something because this is interesting, and I get it. Auburn, I think, only has the one quad 1 victory, and I think they're 1-7 in quad 1 games. But it got us thinking because we always talk about conference strength. Do you think you can better cap the middle of the Big Ten or the top of the SEC?
Wow, I could better predict.
Yeah.
Oof. I could better predict the top of the SEC. The middle of the Big Ten. All right. I mean, to me, it's like God Almighty. I don't even.
I just saw Arkansas and Alabama go down to the wire. Auburn can't beat anybody good. Kentucky, it's hard.
It's hard, Damon, but the middle of the Big Ten to me is like going into a chain restaurant and sitting there and looking at the menu and saying, well, this option's better for me nutritionally than that option. It doesn't matter. If you're at Applebee's and you're deciding between the quesadilla burger and the 3-cheese chicken penny Alfredo, then guess what? You should have stayed in your car if it was that hard of a choice, or if you think you're doing yourself a service by picking one over the other. That's like looking at the middle of the Big Ten. I don't know if one dish is better than the other. It's hard to explain. And they're not steaks. Notice I said, and I love, hey, I'm good with half apps, all right? Look at the subject matter. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, fellas. I know you're cackling. You might not even be able to hear me. The middle of the Big Ten is like that. We're not deciding between a T-bone and a porterhouse. These teams are just not particularly strong. And the league's going to get 6 or 7 teams. But and by the way, Nebraska, we said in the preseason, I came on your show. We talked.
Yes, you did.
You did.
I'm happy for the Huskers. I'm really happy for Coach Hoiberg. And Coach Hoiberg called his shot back at Big Ten Media Day. He said, I think this is my best team. He was damn right. He was absolutely correct.
Is he coach of the year in the conference? Or do you like Collins or Painter?
I give it to Hoiberg.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Hoiberg's my Big Ten Coach of the Year because that program hasn't been dancing in a decade. But the top of the SEC, Tennessee's number 1 for me. Kentucky's number 2. You got Auburn there. You got Alabama's back to me. So the reason why it's easier is because Alabama can't buy a stop. And because Connect and Tennessee have separated themselves, Kentucky separated themselves. They're in their own tier. I do believe we'll see a Kentucky-Tennessee final. I think, though, to your point, Damon, it's that like 3-8 in the SEC too. It can be a little bit confusing. And I think part of it is you have some inexperienced teams that have surprised this year.
Mississippi State.
Yeah, Mississippi State, South Carolina. Like, I don't know how South Carolina's going to handle the postseason. I'm intrigued. I'm very happy for Lamont Paris. He deserves SEC Coach of the Year. He was given that honor. But how did Michie Johnson and company handle the stage now of the postseason with a target on their back? Life's different. Life's different when you're unnoticed to now you're not going to surprise anybody anymore.
That's John Fanta. He is with the Field of
Fantastic.
68. He's with college basketball on Fox. John, incredible stuff as always. Hopefully in maybe a couple weeks we'll catch up with you again, see where we're at after that first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Thank you, fellas. I think we'll get a UConn Creighton round 3 at the Garden this week.
Let's get
do
it.
it.
Sounds great.
Let's do it. We appreciate it, John. Great
There you go.
stuff. That is John Fanta. He's with college basketball on Fox and the Field of 68.
And he likes James Madison. How about
Likes
that? He
James
likes
Madison.
the Dukes. They're going
And
to be tough.
I think you might have a soft spot for some Applebee's too. He was going deep cuts on that menu. I appreciate that. Half price apps got me through college. We got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're on KFOR in Lincoln as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We've got some lot of Applebee's takes going on in the break here. I'm not hating on Applebee's.
I mean, neither.
This is so,
and I just was Googling who, because I
Your
just saw the
Chili's.
commercial
Yeah,
for 3 for $10.99. I was like, Chili's, they make the pictures look good.
so push come to shove. You go to Chili's or Applebee's?
Chili's probably.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
It's like stained. It's been
a
a
while.
while.
I loved when I was in.
Dude, I haven't had a carb since Saturday. You think I'm about to lose my mind? I mean, not a one.
Legitimate. I had hash
ridiculous.
browns and an English muffin breakfast. So,
But I have found like 2 nights in a row, I needed something at like 10.
yeah,
I ate 2 meat sticks.
and some cheese,
And then last night I had
the
the
wisps.
homemade. I cut up 3 little dice-sized things of cheese. I nuked them. I only made 3. And I like popped them.
This smells delicious.
I need something for my vitamins because it makes me queasy if I take them on an empty stomach.
Oh yeah, I went hard on the Applebee's in college. That was the half price apps were good for your boy. Low key though, Chili's chips and salsa elite. The salsa is so good.
Careful with the leaves.
No, the salsa. I have not.
At Chili's?
Chili's salsa is my favorite restaurant salsa.
Is it? So when you say salt, like, is it chunky? Is it?
It's chunky, but they blend it so you don't have any actual chunks. So you get the flavor of the stuff with
of
the
like pico, but
yes, but the consistency of a regular salsa.
Okay.
It's incredible. I haven't been in a couple years.
That's not my style. So like,
Okay,
it's not my
fair.
jam.
But yeah, I love it. It's pico that's not chunky. It's incredible. Like,
Really?
it's
So you
good.
can dip it and you don't get like a
Yeah,
hunk
there's no
of-
chunks
Okay.
because they blend it. I think they put it.
That's probably doable.
It's really good, and their chips they can get a little on the greasy side, but their chips are really good as well. I'll ride for chips and salsa
Really?
at Chili's.
Okay. 3 for $10.99 seems like there's a trick to it though.
I mean, it starts at $3.99, so there's certain items that are upcharged, so that's kind of where they get you there.
Well, I just tell you that the my guy that spent $19 for one meal at Five Guys.
I think it was 17 or 19. I don't remember what you said, but yeah.
I'm like, do you know what I could go to? Listen, I could go to Firebirds and get a $19 meal.
So Hot Danger says Applebee's has stepped up their meat game recently. So I don't know. I haven't been in a minute. What I appreciate about places like Applebee's and Chili's though is they know what they are.
Yeah.
They're not out here trying to be something else. Self-awareness is important to me, even in a chain restaurant. It just is.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah.
This is why I could. It's this. My wife, the professional chef. This is very important to her. She'll go and eat Taco Bell because Taco Bell isn't trying to pretend like they're elevated Mexican food, right? Taco Bell's like, hey, we know you're drunk. It's okay.
Shane's laughing. He's like, "That's my staple when I feel like spending."
Come.
Give them nothing.
Even Taco Bell's expensive now, isn't it?
Nah, not really.
Is it?
I don't think so.
There's
Nah,
one
it
right by
can
my
be.
house, and I never.
They're like, hey, we know, we know you're hungover a little bit. Come get a crunch wrap.
So true or false? It's not because what I always hear is that everything tastes the same.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
I don't.
So it's on my FYP page.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying those empanadas.
I haven't had the empanada yet. So I've got a few go-tos at Taco Bell. Because sometimes it's kind of funny because
And by the way, does everybody have to smack on those food tasting?
I hate those.
Is that part of the deal?
I don't know if they're doing like
I don't know if that's like a thing.
I think they're doing like an ASMR thing, but I hate listening to people chew.
English, please.
I don't know what it stands for. It's the thing where they're really focusing on like the noises of what's happening. So if you probably see it in some of your food videos where they're very focused on like the sound of chopping stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
It's called ASMR. It's like audio stimulatory something. I don't know what the rest of, but it's basically like the sounds
you
are
can
satisfying.
do food reviews without food falling. Like I think that's part of the shtick now. the
Yeah, like
appeal.
I need Keith Lee to stop chewing in my ear.
So he's not even the best,
No, but he's the worst about chewing in my ear.
and he may be the most popular. I don't know.
He probably is.
Well, I like this guy, Mr. Chime Time.
I haven't seen him.
Keith, he always talks with his head over his mouth. Let's get it.
It's-
Let's try it.
That's because he's like trying not to chew in your face.
Let's get it. Let's try it. Let's do
But he's just like smacking the food. I need people to not chew into a microphone.
He went to a place that I have driven by. I did a deal in Seattle a couple years ago, Washingtonians for Nebraskans,
Okay.
and I spoke up there, and I passed the place that he just did a review for. It's called the Dough Zone.
Yeah.
It's like Asian cuisine.
Ooh, okay.
But he door dashed it, so I didn't watch.
See, that's the other part with he always takes it to go, and that
well, he's so popular.
I understand that, but he wasn't when he started. He always did it to go.
I know.
And maybe it's because he might have started during the pandemic, so it might have just been to go stuff there. But it dramatically changes the food, like the experience of the food.
Yeah,
eating it there versus to go.
I don't even know how we got on this.
I don't know, but Drunk Monk says no, not even Drunk Monk is touching Taco Bell while drinking. Listen, oh, thank you, Hot Danger. Autonomous. What am I doing? Autonomous sensory meridian response, ASMR.
Bro.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
What are we even doing?
Were you Ron Burgundy? Like you couldn't.
Autonomous.
Who's autonomous?
I don't know, man. I'm an idiot. It's fine. No, I don't know how. Because we were talking about Applebee's with Fanta. That's how we got on this.
Can I say something real quick about
Sure.
the middle of the Big Ten and an argument? Not an argument, but a discussion Drew Down and I were having last year about Trace Jackson Davis and Zach Edey.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave this right here.
Okay.
Trace Jackson Davis is already doing something that Zach Edey will not do in his first year.
Play.
Yep.
Yeah. Trace Jackson Davis is a better NBA prospect than Zach Edey.
No, stop. See, it's easy to say now. I couldn't get a soul
He
to
was.
agree.
He is. Zach Edey's not a good NBA prospect.
Okay.
That's just. I mean, anybody that was trying to tell you that Zach Edey is a good NBA prospect.
I don't think that was really the discussion. It's what it morphed into.
Okay. I wasn't there, so I don't know.
I was saying that Trace Jackson, and it wasn't just Fudge. It wasn't just AR. Like a lot of people felt like it might have even. I think Padilla got in on this conversation.
Ooh, Jacob, you're better than that.
And it's not. No. I got to reset it because I don't want to be that guy that
Okay.
says something that wasn't really like he got me with Miami.
That wasn't really said. Okay.
Yeah. It was something about translating their game because their stats were very similar. They both were going for like 21 and 12 and 50% and we were talking about shooting outside of 5 feet. Trace Jackson Davis has already played more in his rookie year than even I thought. And I was a Trace Jackson Davis guy.
Yeah. I thought he fell a little bit further than I thought he was going to in the draft. I thought he might go a little higher than he did because he would go like mid late second round.
Oh yeah.
Towards
the end, I think.
Yeah, late. I couldn't remember if it was middle or late.
Yeah.
But I thought there was a time probably before his last year at Indiana that people thought he might be late first, and that obviously didn't happen. I mean, there's the mocks right now of Edey in like middle first round, and I don't look at a guy like Zach Edey and be like, yep, that's a guy that works in the NBA.
By the way, your guy Brunsey, my guy too,
yeah,
was low key trolling me. He sent me a text the other day with some comments on Coach of the Year evaluations for Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah,
and all it said underneath, he sent me the link on X.
Yeah,
and he goes, "Lazy voters."
He sent me that. I think he sent me the same thing. He might have sent me the exact same thing.
I was like, see, that's the kind of stuff that you don't really. It's not really funny on the surface because if you don't know what he means,
yeah,
it was hilarious. I probably laughed for 3 minutes. I'm like, do I want to choke him or give him a hug?
Bruns is hilarious. I love Bruns. He's super funny.
He's got Wichita tonight.
Yeah, Wichita, Nebraska. It's
and Creighton and Omaha.
It's a good little baseball. We'll pick up, at least on the show, we'll pick up college baseball a little bit more once March Madness is over. Nebraska and Creighton play in Omaha on the 2nd of April, I think. And
they might actually get a nice weather day, although the 14th.
today's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, I know. The 14-day forecast was not great for next week, so I'm going to give April 2nd some time.
Yeah, we're hoping.
I saw some high 40s, which is what I'm hoping for.
That's not what I'm. That's not good baseball weather.
Listen, we need spring. What I tell you about? See, we're already behind in precip. You nice weather people, I get it. It's fine. Some of you are heliotropes and you need the sun, but balance. We're going to pay the price.
That's fine. It can rain.
I need all the yields and crops and whatever's supposed to happen. It
can rain when it's warm. I'm not saying no
Folks
rain.
were losing their grass last year, the second week in June.
Yeah, that's not great. I'm not here for the droughts. I just want it to be warm when it precipitates.
Ravi Lulla here for being parched.
I just want
that and chili salsa.
Dude, that chili salsa is so good. I just want it to be warm when it precipitates. Is that too much to ask?
That's fine.
That's all. See? Look at that. Meeting in the middle. Compromise on a sports talk radio show.
That's rare.
That's something we can't do on Twitter, though, at least. That's too much. Or X, as we call it these days. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show. I got a Hurrdat hot seat question I want to ask DB.
Oh, Lord.
It actually has to do with Zach Edey. We'll be back with more here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on a Tuesday.
Ravi Lulla here for the little guys in March Madness.
Hurrdat Sports Radio. AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB, who's apparently just riding for Michigan State.
I have not. See, that's the kind of stuff you do. At no point have I lobbied. And I started the Indiana State conversation. Per usual, you took it someplace way further than me.
That's what I do.
But you're in on South Florida. You're in on James Madison. You're in on Indiana State. Who
I
else do you
love
want?
South Florida.
Oh, I know, man.
They're a little frisky. They're gonna be trouble.
What are they 20-5, 21-5, somewhere around there.
It might be like 8. I think they're at 8 losses.
Are you sure?
No, but I said I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right because everybody seems to have.
I'd say they got to be closer to 30
I mean,
games.
generally speaking, everybody has 6 to 8 losses, right?
23-6.
Oh, I wasn't. Okay,
You were close.
Not bad.
I knew they had more games than.
Yeah, whatever.
But you were right.
5's closer to 6 than it is to 8.
That's true. Price is Right rules. You win because I went over. That
used to be the show.
Dude, I loved that show.
Shane, dead or alive? Bob Barker.
I believe he's passed.
He is passed. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Pour one out for my guy.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It must have just happened.
A couple years ago, I think.
Now, how do you know?
Because I love Bob Barker.
So you're asking to pour Diet Coke out for your guy?
Is he a Diet Coke guy?
I don't know, but that's what Ravi is.
I do drink Diet Coke. 2023.
Yeah. You know what? That's a year ago.
Yeah.
I said a year. Hey, by the way, I said this to you before, and you haven't cleaned up your game. Can you stop letting your ice melt?
Yeah, but no, I'm okay because I didn't leave any condensation today. That's all I care about.
Why do you put any in there?
It's because I don't feel like asking them not to. Because I'm driving through. I'm not getting in. That's the point of a drive-through in the morning. I'm not getting out of my car.
It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Are you going to drink it while it's cold?
I'm going to put ice in. I got ice in here. I'm going to pour it in there.
Do you still get bubbles?
There's some bubbles. Look at that. See, we got bubbles. See, look. See, you can see on the camera there. There's still bubbles in there.
Yeah, you're probably one of those guys. Do you buy canned soda or bottle?
Usually cans because it's easier to buy in bulk.
Do you finish a can in a sitting?
I put it in here.
Do you drink a can of pop and put it in the fridge?
No, I don't. But my wife has this horrible habit. Love her dearly. She has this.
Always. It's funny. You got to cover your bases or what, man?
She has this horrible habit of opening. I think it's a little ADHD thing where she'll like open a can of pop and then she'll like take a couple sips and then set it down somewhere and forget that she opened one. And so I'll go around the house and there's just these like cans of Diet Coke all over the place.
The kids used to be like that with water, bottled water.
Yeah.
Until I started buying the little baby bottles.
Yeah.
The little grenades.
Like
and they got so mad. And I said, well, finish
the big
instead of leaving them around, and I'll go back to those. But my pet peeve is when you don't put open drinks back in the fridge.
So what I've convinced her, because here's my thing. Then it's because I'm a crazy person. It's fine. I am not going to drink a soda that's been sitting out on the counter because I'm terribly afraid that a spider has crawled in there.
That's actually not. I would be the same.
I will not do it. But
Yeah,
if she
don't-
puts it back in the fridge, I'll finish it. I'll put it in my little bottle with.
So
and
that's a thing.
I beg her to do it because I don't want her to. It's better than wasting the soda.
Oh gosh.
And I'm not going to drink it on the counter because I don't know what's in there anymore.
I-
I don't know what's in there anymore.
I don't even recognize. Why would you? First of all, it's only 12 ounces. Okay, so let's finish what we
I don't
started.
even recognize what
I
we
Second
under that.
of all-
I understand that.
Why would you put an open container back in the fridge?
So the
Do you-
spiders don't get in
Do
it.
you know what I had to do? I had to tell Micah to get a water bottle
Yeah.
instead of just here's a Gatorade bottle. What you don't drink, just put. Because you know what I don't want to do?
What?
I don't want to move things around in the fridge and have your nonsense spill. Zoe's the only little girl under 5 in America that has 3 different drinking things in the fridge. It makes 0 sense.
Well, so I don't have like kids grabbing in the fridge, so we don't spill stuff in the fridge.
Oh, I see what you did. You're making a little light, huh?
Well, also,
Like I can't navigate,
no, I'm saying like, okay, kids are more likely to spill stuff than adults. Also, here's the other thing.
It doesn't even keep its carbonation.
I don't care about the carbonation that much
So why drink soda?
because it tastes better than water.
Get Mio.
It tastes better than Mio.
You're getting worse by the minute.
Also, it's got a little caffeine in it. I need a little kick. And I know some of the Mios have caffeine, but it tastes better than Mio. I like the taste of soda. I don't want what's difficult to understand about that. Do I prefer it when it's carbonated? Yes, but I'll drink it when it's not. I don't care.
Interesting.
I like the flavor of soda. I don't know how.
Hey, I'm not knocking your hustle.
That's listen,
You get a flat soda and have some salsa at Chili's.
man. That chili salsa is elite. I'll say it again.
Whatever the hell it is.
You and Nick Bod.
It-
Get a little salsa on your chest. Is that what that is?
Open a can of salsa, explodes all over my chest.
I open up some salsa, explodes all over my chest.
I remember where I was when he said that. Like
Yeah.
I was in the car. Like I remember. I don't know if I remember the original one, but he said it a second time because
I apologize.
it was during. I hope Nick's listening. This is one of my favorite. I've told him this before. One of my favorite things is it was during the NBA lockout in like 2010, 2011, whatever that was. And there was that sort of rumor about LeBron and some guys maybe like starting their own league. And it was just, posturing, whatever. But Nick goes, if you need somebody, your boy still plays. This one he's still playing like summer league and stuff. And he's like, LeBron comes down the lane, explodes all over my chest. I was on the interstate driving to a college class.
Wow.
I open up some salsa, explodes all over my chest.
And I almost drove off the road. I laughed so hard.
LeBron. He and I used to go back and forth over LeBron.
He's like, I could take some charge. He's like, I'll take some charges in LeBron's new league.
I felt like he thinks I should have give
LeBron.
LeBron more respect than I did or do, which is fair.
LeBron is one of those. So you say I can't see the talent past my dislike. I don't like LeBron. I respect what LeBron has done. His playing style doesn't meet my eye right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's a little more bully ball than I like, and I like a little bit more of a finesse game.
Like Zach Edey.
No, but
You love Zach Edey. Ravi Lulla here for Zach Edey.
I think he's a really good college player. I think
Ravi
style.
Lulla here for hating on Illinois.
No, just their defense. Their defense is very bad.
No, because the SEC gets stops.
And I have I been here standing for the SEC? I have not. But again, I made this point, I think last week. I don't know if the SEC offenses are just that good or if the SEC defenses are just that bad or if it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like when at the time 10 years ago when we didn't know if the SEC defenses were just that good or if none of them could recruit a quarterback and refuse to hire any offensive coordinators. Like, I don't know. I really don't. I do want to bring up Zach Edey, though, because I had heard a hot seat question.
Okay, can I ask you one more thing?
Sure,
Do you
the show's
remember
almost
Matt?
over. But
You
it's fine.
remember Matt DeMarinis?
I do
our
know
bet?
him, yeah. What
didn't ask
was the bet?
So Kansas and Houston
Yeah.
versus UConn and Creighton.
Oh, yeah. The Kansas is going to be, if McCullough and Dickinson aren't healthy, there's some trouble there.
Water's wet, Robbie.
I'm just saying.
I was just getting ready to ask you, do you think I'm in a little bit of
Yeah, I
trouble?
think you're in.
How about him? He was almost going to take Marquette, but he went with Creighton just because he likes Creighton more.
Yeah, that's the
And
right thing to do.
Not at the time.
No,
It would have been easy because
I
Kolek
think
wasn't
he-
even hurt yet. Now he may have caught a break with Kolek being out.
He caught a break with Kolek. You did not catch any breaks with the Kansas injury situation. They say they're going to be back for the tournament. I wonder how much that's posturing for seeding, so they don't get dinged on the.
They're
by the
still going to
committee.
be a 5-6.
You think so?
You can't make Kansas a 4.
I want to see where does Bracket Matrix have Kansas right now?
You think Kansas is top 16 teams in the country right now?
Bracket Matrix. So that's an average.
No,
of-
I get it. I
So-
get it. So they're a 4, right?
They're a 3.
Yeah, they're not a 3.
I think they might get if they get bounced first round of Big 12 tournament, which is entirely possible without those 2 guys, because they had 4 guys before, and now their 2 top ones are gone, or at least 2 top.
They're
ladies.
not a 3.
I don't think so either, but that's where they're at, and it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty consensus.
Yeah, so I mean, must be fact, right?
I'm just saying, I'm not a bracketologist. What else?
I'm.
What other information would you like me to pull on here?
It's rhetorical.
Okay. I think they're probably closer to a 5, I think, than they are the top line of the 3, but we'll see in a couple days here as they start getting that underway. I did want to ask about Zach Edey because Purdue retired his jersey on senior day. Weird at all? It seems weird to me. He's still playing.
You asked me the same question last year.
I did not ask this question. Giannis? Shanus? That's
it's a wrong question.
He's still playing. That's weird.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Like that's a weird vibe, Purdue.
Maybe they think he's going somewhere and he may never see it again.
I mean, he can always come back. He's going to have plenty of free time in the next couple of years.
Come back, Shane. Come back.
I mean, it took Creighton a decade to retire.
By the way,
McDermott's
R.I.P.
jersey.
to that little kid, right, Shane?
Oh, come on, Shane.
The little kid in that movie?
Yeah, he died in a camper accident.
Another reason I don't go camping.
So the DJ can't spin.
I guess not.
I can't believe you intentionally put soda back in the fridge that's already been
I don't
opened.
put it back in the fridge. I ask her to put it back in the fridge so it's still drinkable for me because I know there's no spiders in it.
Oh, God.
Yes, I'm afraid of spiders in my soda. I don't know what to tell you.
Why don't you divide the fridge in half and just have half your side and half your wife's side?
Because we don't have that much. I mean, mostly just have leftovers in the fridge because we don't cook.
Oh, my fridge is deep.
Well, that's the other problem with because you cook a lot, so you're gonna have like stuff in there.
Yeah.
We don't spill anything because we don't have anything in there.
Good point.
Like we're not cooking.
Hey, did the Zags win tonight? You're gonna owe them an apology.
I am not gonna owe them an apology. Never.
Yes, you are.
I'll die.
You
on
hated
that
it. You poo-pooed them on all year because you got guys sliding into your DMs, so you were mad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to. If you're a public figure college basketball player, you need to have a little thicker skin than sliding into people's DMs. Wait, you wait till you stop playing like trash, and then you start sliding in people's DMs. That's fine.
You better keep his name out your mouth.
Ryan Nemhard. How's that? Hurrdat Sports Radio.